Big Sil's National Football Show on the road to Glendale. Just say that, on the road to Glendale. Man, second Super Bowl in 5 years is quite a testament to the Eagle organization. And by the way, are these not the two best organizations over the last 7 years? Right? You could probably throw maybe the Patriots in that conversation too, but I mean, here they are. 49ers, who were in that conversation, but the Chiefs, man. I mean, look at all the conference championship games they've been in. This is really going to be a very interesting ball game. By the way, can I please do something here? Hey, Tone. I am taking back every single thing I said about Nick Sirianni right here. Mark it down. 3:02 Eastern time. Anything I've ever said about Nick Sirianni, I am taking back 100%. After watching Taylor Sirianni sitting there at the press conference and watching Sirianni be a dad, that's the toughest person he's ever coached. I mean, if you can coach Taylor Sirianni, you can coach anybody. You can coach anybody. Dude, did she not have the mannerisms down? Taylor Sirianni is a Philadelphia treasure now. Don't ever have anyone say if anyone ever says anything negative about those three kids, I will personally come to Philly and kick your ass. I'll come out of retirement. Those kids were gold. Nick's talking about running the ball late in the football game, and she's got the dad down pat. I text Sirianni, and I said, hey, that's the toughest person you'll ever coach. I said, by the way, my daughter's 22 now. It only gets worse. Dude, enjoy that. Man, that was big time. Holy cow, man. Did I enjoy that? I must have watched that video clip 50 times. I'm laughing in bed last night, watching that little girl just like, and it's not mocking. It's fun. It's fun family stuff. Dude, that he's talking so serious to the Philly media, you know. Hey, Nick, that was your best press conference since you've been Eagle head coach. Is your daughter sitting there doing that? Okay. Anton goes, are you going to talk about Tom retiring? That's second. That video with Taylor Sirianni talk and doing what she was doing. And how about when she goes, Taylor, stop it. Taylor, stop it. She starts laughing. Dude, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm watching the 22, you know, I'm watching the Chiefs, and I'm watching the Eagle 22, and I'm sitting here going like, and then I see this thing. Someone sends it to me, and I go, this is gold. I stopped what I was doing to watch it. Taylor, stop it. Stop it. And I'm going, dude, that is so great. And you could tell he doesn't hit her. I have a daughter, and she acted the same way. I said this to my daughter once. Just so you know, good afternoon, Neil. So we're at the beach when we were back in Florida, right? We were in Florida, and my daughter was doing something stupid to me. And so I looked at her. I go, if you don't pick that up, I'm going to bury you out here with the crabs in the sand. They'll never find you. Someone sitting next to us and heard that. She looked at me. My daughter looked at her and went, don't worry. He's just a big mouth. He'll never do anything like that. She was 8 years old. And my wife starts laughing, and I'm going like, man, this is just going to get worse. I told Nick that story, man. Oh, dude, that put a smile on my face, man. That's a great storyline going out to the Super Bowl in Glendale. Wendell says, let Miles go. Gainwell number 1. Let Slay go. Draft a corner. I'm kind of in there with you. Let's get going here a little bit. All right. By the way, real quick, before we get started, Shane Steichen Why would you take that second interview with the Colts? Why would you take that second interview? Is that a place you want to go to have your career die? Or do you want to just be a millionaire? Because Irsay's all popped up on pills, makes knee-jerk reaction, and he makes stupid things when it comes to decision-making with the Colts. You'll never have a decent quarterback in the room. Why would you want that job? Now, again, there's 32 of them in the world. I get it. Plus you could become a millionaire overnight. I get it. I guess you got to grab it. But, dude, man, is that a job that you think you're going to have job security at? They haven't got the quarterback right since Andrew Luck. Is that the job you want, dude? Okay? Is that the job you want? Merrill Reese, 4:30 Eastern Time, the legendary voice of the Philadelphia Eagles. Guys, do me a favor. This is Merrill's fourth Super Bowl with Philly, right? 80, the McNabb, 17, and now this, right? It's 4 for him. Okay, right? This is his fourth trip, right? I believe he was the voice calling that 80 Super Bowl, right? So Merrill Reese going to his fourth Super Bowl. Can you imagine this? You're the voice of the Philadelphia Eagles, and you've been to every single Super Bowl in franchise history, and you've been the voice of it. It's crazy. And that's crazy awesome. Crazy legendary. Crazy legendary. All right. The Brady retirement. Let me put this in Philadelphia Eagles context. We'll talk about Brady's tremendous career. What else is there to say about Tom Brady's career that hasn't already been said and we don't already know as fans? I've got some topics out there later on in the program. But let me tell you how Brady's retirement affects the NFC. Okay. Who's the favorite to win the NFC South now? That division. Who wins the NFC South? I'm putting this in Eagle context moving forward over the next 3 years. Okay? Who is the top dog in the NFC South? Who's the top dog? The Saints? Okay. I mean, are they any threat to the Eagles? Is there anybody in that division? Atlanta? Anybody in that division is a threat? I guess maybe whoever lands there, quarterback-wise, maybe Garoppolo finally does get to Tampa. Or how about Aaron Rodgers getting to Tampa? Possibly. So let's just take a look at that Brady retirement here. Outside of Jalen Hurts, what quarterbacks do you think can push their teams into an NFC championship to compete against the Eagles? Now, let's do this. I think San Francisco is still going to compete, but let me show you where you are now in the quarterback carousel known as the San Francisco 49ers. Okay? So now Purdy's not going to be ready potentially for 6 months. Trey Lance, you don't know if he can play or not. Garoppolo's leaving the building. It's kind of chaos. Quite frankly, since Kyle Shanahan has been the head coach with the Niners, have you seen more instability with the quarterback position than in San Francisco? Yet they've still won, right? Okay. So what other team do you think that Minnesota, having won all those one score games, what was it, like 11? You think they're going to win all those games this year with Kirk Cousins? I don't know. Kirk Cousins, Jalen, Eagles. You're not paying Jalen yet? Really, Minnesota? Minnesota is kind of a charade, right? They're kind of a fraud. Detroit. Real goes Detroit. Maybe Detroit. Do the Rams bounce back? What do the Rams have? They're probably going to move off of Jalen Ramsey in the offseason here. You got Cooper Kupp, an aging Matthew Stafford who's been banged up. Name me another team in the NFC. So if the Eagles lose some guys in free agency, as long as it's not catastrophic, they could be right back in the NFC Championship game all over again, especially if they hit on some free agents that Howie gets a Howie deal on again like he did. Do I think Howie can replicate what he did this past offseason? No, I don't. Dude, he's not going to go 8 for 8 again. No one does. That was unprecedented. But I do think he's better at free agency and making trades than he is at drafting. His draft this year had no impact on the football team. Now, it's a good football team. It's a good football team. So, you got to temper that comment that I just made by saying, well, Sills' draft. Well, they really didn't. Nobody really had. I haven't seen Jordan Davis. Since Jordan Davis has been activated again since he got hurt, he has been a zero factor. Zero factor. Linval Joseph has been more of a factor. So, where I'm going and my point is, man, so if the Eagles lose some guys, I think they're going to be okay. As long as there's not these falling off the cliff, like the secondary guys, what is the biggest concern for Howie as he moves into the 2023 season? What's the biggest area that you don't want to get weak at? I think there's two. O-line, which I think they're intact, right? Everybody's under a great contract. Sayamalo's got a deal. Lane's coming back. Okay, Isaac Sayamalo. Now Jordan Mailata's deal's set. Dickerson's set. You know, Kelsey you still have to have a conversation with. And Sayamalo's going to be a tough loss. But you could draft a guy, and you got the best offensive line coach. Sayamalo is going to get at least $13 million in the open market. Okay, he's making like $3 million right now, and he's 29. Guys, Howie's not going to pay another guy $15 million. You think you're going to pay your two bookends $18 million, your center $10 million, and your right guard $15 million? Dude, we did it yesterday. There's just not enough money to go around. Okay, there's just not enough money. And by the way, I don't think that guy Juergens is big enough to play guard. I don't think he's big enough. Okay? I just don't. Again, going back to the Brady retirement, though, depending on who Tampa gets in, here, now watch this. If I'm Green Bay, do you come back with Aaron Rodgers one more year, knowing that the NFC is so down quarterback? All the quarterbacks are over on the AFC. Don't you, if you're Green Bay, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to bring, I think it's $60 million this year. It's like $60 million. Don't you bring him back? Because without Aaron Rodgers, say Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets. So you take Aaron Rodgers out of the NFC, the Eagles for the next 2-3 years, there's no competition in the NFC for them. Now, some keep pointing out the Cowboys, all right? Here's my issue with the Cowboys. You're losing Zeke. Zach Martin's got 2 years left. The kid you drafted played pretty well. You got to address your D tackles a bit. Micah Parsons is really good. You need another wideout, but Prescott's holding you back. You're never going to win a championship with Dak Prescott as your quarterback. Now, if you're Dallas, you may say this. Well, we may win with Dak. And the reason we may win with Dak is because the only guy that we have to really fear is Jalen Hurts. Is Daniel Jones going to be in the conversation where you're going to call him an elite passer in the NFC? Hey, man, after naming Tyler Huntley to the Pro Bowl, I think anything is possible, but I'm going to say no as of right now. Tone says, this may sound crazy, but should the Eagles let Bradbury walk, move on from Slay, then trade for Jalen Ramsey and draft a corner? Ramsey makes $20 million, man. His contract for the next 2 years is under market value. Okay, 14.5, 15.5. Hey, Tone, do me a favor. See how old he is. Because Jalen Ramsey, great player. That's a really good take on Jalen Ramsey. I probably think that the Rams would want to probably try to trade him to the AFC. Somebody like the Patriots. That's not a bad take. That's not a bad take. I mean, because you're thinking about replacing talent with talent. Wow, Jalen Ramsey's 28 and he's under market value. Was he hurt last year at all? So let me go back and take a look at that one more time. This is what Tone says. Should the Eagles let Bradbury walk? Ramsey's better than Bradbury. Move on from Slay. Draft a guy with the 10th pick. And the Rams need draft choices too, don't they? And trade for Jalen Ramsey. I'd give you a third for him. And then you got him for the next 2 years at 14.5, at 15.5, and he's 28. I like that. How about this? That's an option. Okay? That's an option. Trade Slay, sign CJ, sign Bradbury, draft. Let Bradbury walk, trade Slay, make a deal with the Rams to get Jalen Ramsey at 28 and get him under market value. Good thinking, Tone. Be on your game. That's why you're a huge asset to this show. Jalen Ramsey's one of the best lockdown corners. Played on a shitty football team last year that didn't want to show up. All of them, including the coach. See, you're looking also. Remember this too. Under market value helps you do what? Sign Jalen. You're trying to keep as many pieces on the chessboard after this Brady retirement here. Not financially kick your salary cap in the teeth. And you're trying to create space now. And by the way, Clutch Sports will be watching all this. Look, they're trying to create space to sign a 3-year or 5-year contract with Jalen here. They're moving pieces around, but not talent around. Who gives a shit what the name on the back of the jersey is? This is what happens with fans. You care more about the names on the back of the jersey than the emblem. In the NFL, this is not about the name on the back of the jersey. It's about the name on the front of the jersey. Okay? It's not about the name on the back. This is about winning. That's what New England did. They only cared about one name on the back of the jersey. It was Brady. Everybody else was interchangeable. That's the mentality you have to have. Now, it's a different dynamic with a dual threat guy. Okay? You need more to help these guys, including Lamar. Dude, I'll show you this. The one thing that Jalen Hurts has made it very... Now, they had to make a trade. I don't see a lot of free agents wanting to come. No injury history. Played all 17 games. I'll tell you the one thing, though. Okay, nobody wants to play wide receiver in Baltimore. Nobody. You don't see anybody clamoring to go play with Lamar Jackson that's a wideout, do you? You see guys like Hollywood that wanted to get the hell out of there and go to Arizona. Nobody wants – Hollywood Brown didn't even want to play there. Hollywood Brown is not an elite guy. He didn't even want to play there. Guys don't want to play with Lamar. Now, they had a trade to get AJ. And AJ, I think, felt a little bent that Tennessee dealt him and didn't give him the extra money. I don't know if Philly would have been his number one option. Say he was a free agent. Would Philly have been his number one option? I doubt it. So it was a trade. It's going to be interesting to see how many people want to come in. Wide receivers don't want to play in Philly. They never have. T.O. is like the only guy. And again, AJ's the best wideout you've had complete since T.O. Now, that dynamic may be changing because of Jalen. I agree 100%. I do. I'm not saying that thing hasn't changed. Jalen's changing a lot of ideologies about the Eagles. I'm not saying that. Wow. The real. Could Ramsey be the next Nnamdi Asomugha? You see, though, real? These are decisions Howie's got to put on the table. There's got to be a ton of options here for this. Okay? I like it. I think it's a really solid pick here on what you're saying. Since Jalen helps Smitty and Brown both. Yes, that changes it. Yes. Since you see 2,000-yard wide receivers on one unit, there's no question wide receivers are going to go, oh, these guys got their numbers. I'm going to a place where I get my numbers. Remember, wideouts want their numbers. They don't want wins. Wideouts don't give a shit about wins. Since when? Since when? All the diva wideouts, okay? All the diva wideouts. A diva wideout in Kansas. Watch this. They moved the diva wideout in Kansas City because they couldn't pay him. And they got good guys in Kansas City now. Okay? Right? Okay. So this Brady retirement, everyone's looking up at Philly. It's not Dallas. It's kind of San Fran, but the quarterback thing keeps them behind Philly. Okay? Keeps them behind Philly. There's every team in the NFC, even going into a heavy-driven free agent season for Howie and the Eagles, I still think puts them, because of their draft equity. Dude, you're picking 10th. Say you win it. And 32. Man. And do this. Do we not agree in the draft? Do we not agree? If I'm Howie Roseman, I trade down. Because there's going to be desperate people looking for quarterbacks, especially NFC teams, that are going to make a gamble on Richardson from Florida. And I don't think he's very good, but he's going to be a first rounder. Will Levis from Kentucky. Those kind of players. Everyone's going to be searching for that diamond in the rough, that needle in the haystack. If I'm Howie, offer me. It's the 10th pick. What do you give it for? I'll take another first rounder the following year. Or I'll trade down. You can have remember something. If a quarterback's taken in the 10th pick, you're still a premium guy. Which means the difference between the 10th pick and the 3rd pick or the 1st pick is not monumental. I think the Eagles are sitting in a very comfortable position on what they're going to do. And they're going to have more draft equity. And they're going to have latitude to be able to move around. At that 10th pick is going to be a valuable pick. Hey, by the way, especially if Chicago doesn't do anything, look what the Eagles are going to get. So I would say that Bryce Young probably goes 2 to Houston. That means that Will Anderson will probably be the first player taken in the draft, which means what? The draft already is set. A defensive guy goes number 1 over an offensive guy for the second year in a row. That's unprecedented. That is, Chicago doesn't move off of Justin Fields, which I don't think they will. Should they? They should entertain it. And then what does that do? That's just one less defensive player off the board. More offensive players sliding down. By the time you get to 10, there could be quality wideouts, and they don't need a wideout. Philly doesn't need a wideout. They need a corner. This is one of the deepest drafts for corners that I can remember in a long time. Okay? Maybe since the Honey Badger draft where all them DBs went. This is going to be really rich. Really rich in corners. So to me, Howie Roseman looks at this and goes, dude, I think the key is getting off Slay. Get off Slay. Time to trade him. No disrespect. I want to trade players with still gasoline in the tank, not empty. Why would you have a guy? And the loyalty to players, dude, players are looking to make as much money as they can. Help Slay out. Go somewhere else. Watch this. If you trade Slay goes somewhere else, plays well, they may give him another contract. You're not getting another contract in Philadelphia, and you're going to be market value guy at 34. Slay's in the difficult part of his career right now. He's on the back nine. He'll be 34 next year, 33, 34 next year. He's not playing like he did at the beginning of the season. I don't think he's coming back from that. And you make $18 million. That ain't worth it to me. No disrespect. He's been great. He's been one of the really good moves that Howie has made as a trade. As a matter of fact, I would say this to you. Of all the moves that Howie Roseman has made, Darius Slay has to be right up there with AJ. Not quite AJ, but trying to think of another trade. You have to put Slay in that conversation. Do what the Patriots do. Trade a guy when he has gas in the tank, like Stephon Gilmore, guys like that. When they trade players that have, what was the kid's name? Richard Seymour, Chandler Jones. That was a mistake, but okay. Jeremy says, Big Sales, love you. Always love watching the content. Game prediction, Eagles 31, Chiefs 14. Jalen will finally dual threat. Yeah, I think so, Jeremy. Jeremy, I'm not going to be one of these guys to sit here and kind of lead up and go, I'll give you my prediction with the around the Super Bowl. I don't see the Chiefs. I'll say a little bit more on the Chiefs where I think they could possibly – if it gets into a shooting match and it's bad play calling on the offensive side, it's the only way it keeps them in it, bad play calling and turnovers. Because to me, Kelsey is the only way they could stay in the game against the Eagles is if Patrick Mahomes can find Kelsey across the middle. Okay? Because I don't believe you're going to get a running game going. Okay? I just don't. I don't see the advantages. Coaching, probably. Okay? Coaching, quarterback, and tight end. And the Eagle tight end is not – he's not a dog. He's probably fourth in the league, in the top 5. And I would probably want a guy like Dallas Goedert because I think he's physical. Sills, what do you think Slay's worth? I think you could trade him right now for a third-round draft choice. I think you could get a 3 for him. Next year, you get a 5 for him. You get a 5 next year. And remember something, too. Something that Tone said about the Ramsey deal. Remember something. Philly may have to eat a little at $18 million, too. Do you think you could trade Darius Slay right now at 32 at $18 million for a first-round draft choice? 95% of the teams are in cap hell. It's not that the kid's not a good player. He's got an $18 million tag to him. So somebody said second or third. Really? Don't forget the $18 million. Don't forget that. Teams have to put that on their cap. Okay? Remember what Chicago did. It's got to be kind of structured like what Chicago did. They sent Robert Quinn to the Eagles, and the Eagles sent a 4th-round pick, and they only had to pay something like $400,000 or something of that $14 million or $18 million bucks or some crazy number that Robert Quinn had. Dude, Robert Quinn, he's finished. Be making $1 million next year. Right now, he's making $16 million. That guy ain't making that money again. Chicago should have traded him a year ago. After the sack season where he had 18, if you were going to trade Roquan Smith, you surely should have traded Robert Quinn at 33. See? That's why Chicago right now. Sills, I owe you an apology. I said some things about you using Jerome Brown, and that was wrong of me. Even in a fit of anger. I'm so Dank, that's all good, dude. Dank, here's the thing about Jerome and me. Hey, Dank, you think Jerome agreed with everything I said? You don't think Jerome Brown and me had wrestling matches in the Miami Hurricane locker room? You don't think Jerome Brown and me didn't sit around at night having deep-ass conversations about things in life. It's all good, man. Dank, I piss my family off, my aunt off, everyone. I get it. It's all good. You know what makes you cool, Dank? You come back. That's all good, man. We'll have a beer when I get to Philly. It's all good. Don't worry about it. All of you, even the ones that give me the craziest shit, it's all good. Even the ones, watch this, even the people that call me racist, we'll have a beer. I don't hate anybody. I really don't. My aunt always helps me not use that word because hate is something that really, I may dislike something. I may not be a fan of something, but, hate means, it's especially the stupidest shit in the world. I don't hate anything like that. Dankos, thank you, but I'm in Portland. Okay. And we may have to go up there and have some of that great salmon. Been up there a few times. Am I buying? No, Jacob's buying. Wait, that means we're not eating. Yeah. Stills love the show. You are Philly material. Thank you, Charles. I think you're great. You guys see this now, though? Do you guys see this here? Check it out. Right? You guys see this? Philly can own this thing. The NFC, not just the East, but the NFC for the next. Howie does it right. 3 years? Dude, that's a lifetime in the NFL. Hey, Big Sills just tuned in. I was wondering your thoughts on the Eagles' D-line versus the Chiefs' O-line. Most TV prognosticators have been saying that the DL won't be able to do much against the Chiefs. Dennis, think about this for a second. The Chiefs' O-line is not better than the Niners. The Chiefs' O-line, Orlando Brown's overrated. That offensive line in Kansas City is not that good. The 49ers have more talent than the Chiefs do. All across the board except the quarterback. I mean, am I wrong? They don't have a Deebo Samuel. They've got a Kelsey. Well, they kind of got Kittle. They got the best left tackle in the game. Orlando Brown is not Trent Williams. They got Chris Jones. They got Nick Bosa. They got Fred Warner. They don't have anybody like that. That Hufanga kid in the secondary. Chiefs got 2 rookies starting at corner. I don't see it. I said this. There's not much. The only reason people are trying to break this thing down to make it sound closer so that they can get viewers and keep you engaged with the Super Bowl. But right now, unless something drastically changes, 31-17, Eagles. If Mahomes turns this into a high-scoring game, it's his only chance to win. Dude, they can't run the ball on Philly. I'm sorry, man. I said personally, I didn't think the Eagles were going to win the Super Bowl because I thought they were going to play. I didn't think they would end up being this multifaceted, being able. Look, their passing game, it stunk against the Niners, but they didn't have to do anything. Get this, Jalen Hurts played not very well in that game. He didn't have to play great. When a quarterback doesn't have to play well in an NFC title game and they still beat you by 24, that says a lot for the team. Remember that. Hey, a couple days now I've been saying Jalen didn't play well in an NFC title game, and he didn't. But to beat a team by 24 points and your quarterback doesn't play well, I don't know. Okay? Yeah, Mahomes is going to have to throw for 500 yards. I agree, Tone. He's going to have to put big numbers up. And he's going to have high completion percentage. And Kelsey's got to have 200 yards. They don't have a running game. I just don't see it. The linebackers can't cover Kelsey. That's the only chance Kansas City has. How long do you think Reddick will play at that level? Elders, he has been a human bullet since Pittsburgh. Since the week they played Pittsburgh, he's been a human bullet. A human bullet. Couldn't have been more wrong about a guy. Incredible turnaround from the first 6 games where he stunk. Not stunk. First 3 games, he stunk. But that's because they couldn't figure him out, and they're dropping him in coverage like jackasses. And this is the same thing Arizona and Carolina did. They were dropping him in coverages because you know why? They wanted to play him on all 3 downs. And they wanted to stay in that 50 front. They got out of that 50 front when they got Sue and Joseph. He exploded. Okay? He exploded. Since you said he was on the bus, he got off, he might watch your show, LA. I don't know. I know a lot of people at the NovaCare Center do. Okay? He's been spectacular, man. He really has. Am I right, though? Before I move on here, dude, you know, I keep going like this to you guys. Hey, man, and you know what? It sounds like gloom and doom when I say this. Man, they got 16 free agents. Where are they getting all the money from? Maybe they don't have to really have the same team back. Because here, just give me 3 teams that you think are going to try to push the Eagles. Now, their schedule's tougher, obviously. Dude, I think Dallas will be worse. And if that's your guy, great. Mike McCarthy's now the play caller. Personally, I think Justin Herbert is going to blow up with the new play caller, Kellen Moore. He's got a better arm. Sills, I became a fan of yours after yesterday's show. Your story about Jerome touched my heart. Paul, thank you. Hey, Paul, being at a Klan rally with Jerome Brown, breaking it up. By the way, Google it. It's in Sports Illustrated. They may even have a picture of me and him there. Hey, Paul. Big Sills, working for Hugh Culverhouse. At a Klan rally with Jerome Brown, breaking it up. Ugh. Seahawks, I believe they're not moving off of Geno. San Francisco, the Seahawks. The Lions. I like the Lions too. All right, let's get into the topics here. By the way, can I show you a gift before we get into the topics? Can I show you a gift I got? I don't even think my aunt's seen this. Can I show you guys a gift that I got from an NFL legend? I don't want to take your time up here. It's kind of cool. He couldn't send me a full jersey, so he had one hanging around for me. Here's check this out. So sent me a nice heartfelt letter. Look what he gave me. And again, he apologized for it being a medium, but it's something for me to hang up. I don't wear other dudes' jerseys like that. But Mark Gastineau, the inventor of the sack dance, gave me this. Hey, I know. It's the Jets. I know it's the Jets. Gastineau's the most famous Jet. The next most famous Jet is Fireman Ed. I get it. I get it. So that was really nice of him. Yeah. Let me see what he wrote in here too. See what he wrote. Dan, you know that you are family when this is the best we could do for a greeting card, and I'm writing on a slant. More importantly, enjoy your signed jersey. Sent to you with love. Mark and Joanne Gastineau. Mark's a troubled guy. I'm attracted to troubled guys. I think everybody makes a mistake in life and everybody gets an opportunity to right the ship. You know, you can repair a ship and set it back out to sea. You don't have to sink it. We've all been there, right? We've all been there. We've all had, as I call, dents in the fender. You know, you don't have to scrap the car because you have a dent in the fender. Fix the fender. Drive on. Not everybody can do that, though. But it's okay. Some people are stronger than others. Pretty cool. So Joe Namath. Okay. Namath, Gastineau, and Fireman Ed. Dude, people send me all kinds of stuff. You see? One of my dear friends here, Leroy Selman. Best always. He is the greatest football player I've ever seen in my life. I wore 93 in college because he wore 93 at Oklahoma. That's why I wore 93. I wore 93 in honor of Leroy. Leroy was, oh, what a friend. What a friend. What a friend Leroy Selman was, man. I miss him to this day. Him and Jerome Brown, probably my two dearest friends. Len Bias was my workout buddy at Maryland. And I miss, isn't it crazy? People I've had in my life, Len Bias was my workout buddy my freshman year at Maryland. We used to get up every day at 6 o'clock and go work out. Len was a workout machine. And he'd come watch us play. We were the same age. By the way, you see that up there? And some of you guys know this. You see that thing in the middle there? It says 1983 championship. That's my ACC championship. I got one before he did. He got his the next year when they beat North Carolina. But we go down to Chapel Hill, watch him play against Jordan, and he'd watch us play at Bird Stadium, and we won the ACC championship that year. Yeah, man. Len, hey, in my opinion, I know all of you will probably kill me when I say this. I'm sorry, but best basketball player I've ever seen in my life, live. And I saw Jordan play live. I saw Ralph Sampson play live. I saw Worthy play live, all in college. And Len Bias is the best basketball player I've ever seen. I've never seen a better basketball player than Len Bias. Never. I thought he was better than Jordan. Jordan has said it himself. He goes, I'd like to have played against him in the NBA because he was special. And then when I was at Miami and I got the call, do you guys remember a dude named Adrian Branch? You guys remember Adrian Branch? And Lefty Driesell was his coach. I'm sitting in my room with my girlfriend at Miami, and those guys stayed in touch with me because I love them guys. I got thrown out of Maryland because I was an unruly kid. My aunt doesn't want me to tell you the story, and I'm not going to. Adrian Branch calls me, Sills. Bias died. I'm like, come again? I talked to him 2 weeks ago. I talked to his younger brother who ended up dying also. I go, what? Where's the mom? He goes, we're with the mom. I'm like, I'll be right up there. So within a matter of from 83 to 90, whatever it was when Jerome died, I buried Jerome and Len Bias. People I talk to on the phone all the time. My girlfriend at the time, and now my wife goes, Jesus, Graminy. Don't tell people you knew all these guys because they'll never believe you. I go, I know. I know, man. I know. Okay. Chuck goes, still sounds like a biased statement about Lenny Bias versus Jordan. It is. Let's move on here. All right. The true MVP. I don't want this show. And by the way, I'm going to say something here, and I'm going to set the barometer here. Okay, wait a minute here now. I don't want anybody to think that all of a sudden this is going to be like some sort of love fest for Hurts here. But I want to look at this. Who's the real NFL MVP going into this game? I got the numbers. And then I'm going to make a case for Jalen. Between Mahomes and Hurts going into the Super Bowl on Super Bowl Sunday, let's look at the numbers and then look behind the numbers. Mahomes, 648 attempts to Jalen's 460. Okay? You would expect that in an Andy Reid offense and with a team with no running game, correct? Okay. Mahomes almost had as many completions as Jalen had attempts, 435 to 306. By the way, all increases for Jalen from a year ago. Remember, at the beginning of the year, that's all we were kind of looking for. Okay? Was improvement. Wait. Joseph thinks this is going to go the other way. Joseph, I think you're going to be stunned because, hey, when I see something and I put an opinion on it, you tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, okay. Mahomes' completion percentage. And by the way, for the record, Mahomes beats him in everything. But I'm going to put a little more on this. Completion percentage, Mahomes 67.1, Jalen 66.5. Not drastic. Yards, 52.50 to 37.01. TDs, 41 to 22. Interceptions, 12 to 6. More attempts, you would expect. QBR, 105.2 for Mahomes, 101.6. Both 14 and 3. Now, let's add the rushing. Mahomes, I can't believe actually Mahomes had this amount of yards. Mahomes had 61 attempts for 358 yards. That's more than I thought. And 4 touchdowns. 6 yards a clip. Pretty effective. And would we not agree? Guys, would we not agree? 61 rushing attempts, isn't that where you want Jalen? Or no? You really want Jalen at 165? Missing 2 games? He probably would have been over 300 yards if he didn't get hurt. Or 200 carries. Or maybe that's part of what the offense is. Jalen had 760 yards rushing. 13 touchdowns. 4.6 yards. Now, if you add all the total yards, I think it's closer than what you thought. And I think it's closer. Mahomes had 5,608 total yards. Hurts had 4,461. Okay. Mahomes had 44 touchdowns. Hurts had 35. Jalen was on pace for the first player in NFL history for 4,000 passing yards before he got hurt. Mark, again, you can't put that out there. That's a projection, not fact. That's the reason I said he'd never throw for 4,000 yards. Not because of his talent, because dual threat prohibits you from doing that. You miss games. Part of dual threat is missing games. And here's the fact. It's not a Jalen thing. It's a dual threat thing. Okay? It's a dual threat thing. You could call it Sileo hating her. It's not. Sileo not liking dual threat because you miss significant games. Baltimore is an example. Arizona is an example. RG3 is an example. Shit, the guy in Chicago had surgery. Okay? So you're going to miss games. It's not a conversation on ability. People put those two together because ability, some look at it and go, well, Sills, durability too has to be part of that. I go, you show me a durable, dual threat guy who runs as much as Jalen Hurts and throws like Hurts. And you show me a guy that doesn't miss ball games. Okay? You show me a guy that doesn't miss ball games. Now, let's do this. Here's why Mahomes is the most valuable player. If you took Patrick Mahomes off Kansas City, what would the record be? What would the record be in Kansas City without Mahomes? What would the record be? Eight and 9. I'm assuming, Jeffy, that it's because of Andy Reid. You think 10 and 7? 8 and 9? No way, 11 and 5. With Chase Daniels? You think you're going to go 11 and 5 and you're going to play and beat Joe Burrow and all those other guys with Chase Daniels? Sorry, you're not going 11 and 6 with Chase Daniels quarterbacking your football team. Sorry, that ain't happening. I say you're a 9 and 8 football team at best. At best. At best. Maybe even worse. If Jalen Hurts isn't the starting quarterback in Philadelphia, what's the record with the Eagles? You're telling me you can't beat some of those shitty teams that you guys played this year? I agree with Sills on the two-time quarterbacks to an extent. Play Superman games, went. Yes, Alf. Yes. 12 and 5, 8 and 8, 7 and 10. The Eagles would not have been 5 and 11. You're telling me you can't beat the Texans? Here's the games that I think you would have lost without Jalen. I think, personally, Gardner Minshew would have beat Cooper Rush. I think he would have split with Dallas. I still think he would have beat the Giants twice. You would have split with Washington. You would have beat the Jags. You may not have beaten Washington. You would have beaten, no, you may not have beaten the Colts. You would have lost to the Packers. You'd have beat Chicago. You lost to the Saints anyway without Jalen, so right there is a factual thing. Lost to Detroit. Yeah. So 9 and 8. Philadelphia would have been 9 and 8, maybe 10 and 7. They surely, both teams are not the same. That's not my point. Finding out who the most valuable person is to his team. Okay? Now let's do this. How many stars does Patrick Mahomes play with in Kansas City? One. Pro Bowl running back. 2 All-Pros in the O-line. 3 Pro Bowlers in the O-line. 2,000-yard wide receivers. He plays with 5 stars on offense. 5 stars. All pro guys. All pro running back. All pro. Tackle, center, guard. Mulata's a second team all pro. 2 wide receivers, 1,000 yards, one's all pro. Tight end is a Pro Bowl caliber guy. He plays with 6 stars. 6 stars. Mahomes plays with 1. 1. Yeah, well, first ballot tight end. Well, Jalen plays with 2 guys that are going to be first ballot Hall of Famers in his huddle. The center and the right tackle are going to be first ballot Hall of Famers. My point is, Mahomes does more with less. than Jalen does. That's why he's the MVP. It's not just the 52-50. It's the fact that he carries a unit when you lose Tyreek Hill. Jalen Hurts would not have the year he had if you took A.J. Brown off that team. Would he? Here. So you think his numbers would increase like Mahomes' did? Mahomes broke the single-season passing record. You think that Jalen Hurts would have put up the same numbers without A.J. Brown? I do not. Now, Goddard getting hurt, could that have offset A.J.? Maybe a bit. What if Jalen was the quarterback in Kansas City and Mahomes was in Philly? Philadelphia would win by 50 points over Kansas City if the roles were reversed. Mahomes would with an all-pro running back and 2 Hall of Famers and 3 first-team Pro Bowlers in the O-line. Dude, he's got 1 lineman that's worth a shit, kind of. Orlando Brown. Am I wrong when I'm saying here? Jalen Hurts has better talent around him. Mahomes can carry a team. And that's why, hey, once again, I don't. Dude, 6 stars beat 2 stars. I don't give a shit who your quarterback is. Richie goes, you're so wrong. Okay. Who's another star in the offense in Kansas City outside of Kelsey and Mahomes? It's not a fault thing. I'm telling you who the MVP is. I'm telling you who the MVP is. Andy's a factor, Will. He is. Andy's a factor. I would still say this about Will. You know what? I'll still say this about Andy that he carried over from Philadelphia. Let me put this out there to you, Will. Maybe you disagree or agree with me. The one thing I'll say is his clock management sometimes going into the half, but because he has Mahomes, he doesn't have to give a shit about, clock management too much. He's kind of like Mike Martz a little bit in a way. Mike Martz never gave a shit about clock management and challenges and shit like that. That's not something he was a big fan of. Okay? I mean, Andy. Okay, I mean, Andy Reid is a factor. He is. There's no doubt. I mean, but I would just say still that Andy, still to my dislike, I don't think he does a great job going into the half and out of and going with 2 minutes left in the game. But he's got Mahomes. Okay? His clock management still kind of sputters at times. I don't know. Maybe you guys see better, but I think it's because Mahomes covers a lot of that stuff. Okay? Just I go, damn, that guy. And I think that's why Mahomes comes over to the sideline sometimes complaining. Why are we doing this and that? And I think he questions a little bit of the play calling at times. You ever notice Mahomes questions the 2-minute drill and what they do going into the half, especially when they have a lead or they're down by 7. He and Andy sometimes don't get on the same page, and Andy has to kind of calm his ass down a little bit. I don't know. This is an observation I see that I thought that he carried over from Philadelphia a little bit. Just something I saw. Seals, who wins Chris Jones and Lane? Man, Lane. I don't. How about this, guys? Jesse, I don't think there's a defensive lineman in the NFL today that Lane can't take care of. And I think that includes Aaron Donald. I don't think there's a defensive lineman he can't take care of. Now, I would say there is not a defensive player that Trent Williams can't take care of. Remember, he's the left tackle. There's difference. left and right, are different. They're paid differently. There's on different pay scales. That's the blind side of a quarterback. That's why they get paid more money. He makes $26 million. Lane makes 18. Not a shabby pay at all in any way. I just don't see. Sills, are you going with the Eagles in the Super Bowl? I am. I thought they would lose the Super Bowl if they played like the Bills or Burrow. But Kansas City just doesn't have – and now that I even look at the way the Bills were too reckless with the football, and that is something that I've agreed with you guys on with Josh Allen. Too many reckless and no running game. I think Cincinnati was the only team that could have beat them. Because Cincinnati is Mixon. And Mixon would have been a tough cover. And plus those two wide receivers would have been Hell and Burrow. Kansas City has nothing really that – outside of Kelsey – and I'm not – watch this. Two Hall of Famers, Kelsey and Mahomes. I get it. Question, if your quarterback is left-handed, does that mean your right tackle will get – yes. Tone, name me a left-handed quarterback in the NFL that starts. Tagovailoa and who? Name me a great NFL left-handed quarterback in history. Stabler? That won Super Bowls. Stabler? Young. Name me another one. There's a reason you don't have left-hand quarterbacks. There's a reason you don't have left-hand quarterbacks. Okay? Yeah, Boomer got to one. He never won it. There's only two. Okay? Two that have won championships. Young. Okay? Championships. I mean, you're naming me Mark Brunell, Boomer Esiason, and you got Tua now in the NFL. Who else? Steve Young was the left-handed Super Bowl winner. Michael Vick didn't win shit. Fun to look at. Kind of like a show pony, Michael Vick. Fun to watch. Fun to look at. Couldn't win shit. Because he was hurt at times. Dual threat. Stabler and Young are the only guys that won Super Bowls that were left-handed. Rest of those guys, you don't build your team around the left hand because what happens? That means you have to have a backup that's left-handed. And there's just not enough of them. You got to turn your entire offense around. That's why no one builds their team around a left-hand quarterback. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. What is it about left-handed quarterbacks that teams avoid? They'd have to change the entire personnel around. Just what you said. That whole thing gets turned inside out. It's different skill sets. Playing right tackle and playing left tackle, everyone knows there's two different skills doing it. Your right tackle is mostly your running guy. Your left tackle is your pass protecting guy. Even though the 49ers do run the ball a lot out of the left, going to their left because Trent's so good. He can do both. That's why he makes $26 million. Yeah, let me double check that. I want to make sure that I'm not speaking bullshit to you guys. What is Trent Williams' contract in 2023? Okay. 27.1. What is Lane Johnson's salary in 2023? 14 million. It came down from, I think it was 18. Trent makes $27 million. Okay. There's a reason. Okay. Chuck says Stabler and Young benefited by great defenses. You might want to add those great wideouts, too, that they had on those teams. I mean, Jerry Rice and The receivers, Fred Biletnikoff and all them other guys that they had on those teams. They had a couple Hall of Fame tight ends too. Dave Casper was on that team. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And their old line, Shell and Upshaw, that might help. Yeah, that's it, Steven. Trent makes $27.7 million in this coming season, and Lane will make 14. There's a reason for that. There's a reason. The positions are more valuable on the left side because they're the blind side. That's not an ability conversation. People tie that in. And I understand that guy who is the best player makes the most money. That's not always the case because we see that in quarterback pay, right? Does anybody actually think that Ryan Tannehill is a better quarterback than Tom Brady? And he made $4 million more last year than Tom Brady, right? Jim Otto, too. That's right, man. He was on that team, and he was a center on that team, and he's a Hall of Fame. Can you imagine that? You had a Hall of Fame center, Hall of Fame left guard, and Hall of Fame tackle with the Raider teams. Wow. Shell and Upshaw and Otto, all three Pro Football Hall of Famers. And your wideouts were all Hall of Famers, and your tight end was too. Holy shit, no wonder Madden won all them games. Well, he only makes half of what Trent Williams' salary. Well, yeah, Marky, people in Philly will tell you all kinds of bullshit. They'll make it seem that Lane's the same guy as Trent. He's not. There's a reason he makes almost $30 million. That's why when people do this and say this, hey, Jalen will take $30 million. So you're going to pay him the same money you're paying the 49er tackle. That's an insult, dude. That's an insult. You're going to pay Jalen Hurts the same money you pay Trent Williams. I don't think so. You need to bump that up about $15 million, dog. Right? Right? You needed to bump that up a little more. Didn't Lane restructure his contract? I think I remember they did a little bit of that, so they may have given him more on the sign so it wouldn't be dead cap money on that thing for him. Maybe they did. I thought he was more in the 18s. I did. Anyway, I got to take a timeout. Merrill Reese is going to join us at 4:30 Eastern. This is his 4th Super Bowl. I can't wait to hear him, man. I mean, he's going back to another Super Bowl. He's been the voice of every single Super Bowl in Eagle history. It's like a classroom for Eagle fans listening to this guy. 4:30 Eastern. Hit the like button. Hour 2. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screams, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. more for their trades. No judgment zone for credit issues. The best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.
Weather forecasting is a team game.
We rely on each other every day, updating the models and passing along new critical information.
We have a team of 5 experienced meteorologists and a specialized weather producer, Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Sometimes what I see in the model, Cecily could see something different.
That's when we come together as a team to make our most accurate prediction.
And all of this backed by more than 100 AccuWeather scientists. It's a team game.
And we have the best team in town.
Game Show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
National Football Show. Appreciate you coming aboard. Merrill Reese, bottom of the hour. And we're going to get a history lesson. All 4 Super Bowls that the Eagles have been in, he's called. How incredible is that? We're going to talk to our friend at 4:30 Eastern, and we'll get your thoughts here on that. So, yeah, by the way, Taylor Sirianni is just blowing up everywhere. I mean, Good Morning America was talking about her. People on Fox were talking about her. CNN was talking about her. I mean, that little girl won the press conference. I don't know about you, but to me, that's my favorite person in Philadelphia history is Taylor Sirianni. I mean, the whole I couldn't stop laughing. You know, I swear to you, I'm watching all the film. I'm sitting there watching the Eagle O-line, how they did a good job against the 49er D-line. I'm sitting there watching it, and then somebody sends over again the press conference. I hadn't seen the press conference. Just so you know, I hadn't seen the press conference. And so we're watching the press conference, and I said it to my wife. She's like, that girl is unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. Taylor, stop it. Taylor. And she just starts laughing. Dude. Hey, yeah, I thought it was too. It was like something out of Saturday Night Live, man. And then the other 2 kids were going like this, pulling their face apart. I mean, you could tell that the Siriannis, mother and father, want to do everything they can to represent themselves and the Eagles to the best of their ability at being the husband and wife, you know, representing the Eagles and all that. You could see they want to always represent themselves. And their kids are blowing it up on them. Get me out of here. I want to go play a game. Get me out of here. The kid starts goofing on the father. It was, you know what? I'll tell you something, man. Can I say this to you? Right. Yeah, that was great parenting. Now I know where Nick Sirianni gets a lot of his coaching philosophy from. Dude, if you can coach a kid and you can have patience with a kid, you can coach these guys. That's your training to be a coach. You know, my wife and I say this all the time to people. You know, people with animals, and, you know, if an animal craps on the floor, shits on the floor or something, if you're mad at the animal, you shouldn't have pets. Don't get mad at the animal. You got to accept that. You got to coach around that. Hey, you can't get mad at your dog. Can't get mad at your cats. You can't get mad at them. They can't say anything. If you're mad at picking up shit Well, you shouldn't have them. Why get mad at them? That's a you thing. And I think that you take those fundamentals and you can apply them to everything you do in life. Hey, if I don't like the way something's going, I got to change it. Not you. Don't you hate bosses? Don't you hate bosses that try to change you? Shouldn't the bosses try to have to change for you? You're the talent. You're the salesperson. You're one of. You got 70 people under you. Why should they all change for you? That's the fundamental philosophy that coaches sometimes fail on. You know how coaches come in with a game plan? They have a game plan, they put it here, and they expect you to change to that game plan. You lose half the room. Why not try to get 90% of the room with finding out each and every individual skill set? This is what this Eagle coaching staff does do great. This is what they do great. You know, I say this about Shane Steichen all the time. Shane's not a play caller. Jalen's the fundamental guy in the game in the RPO. It's his decision-making. You think in the middle of the play when he decides either to pull it out, throw it, or run it, that's something Steichen's in his ear saying? That's a decision that he makes. But the Eagles have fundamentally put that in play as a game plan for Jalen to decide. Do you know how many old school coaches would never fundamentally go down that road? And that's why most of the black quarterbacks that were in college never made it in the NFL. You know why? The white coaches didn't know how to coach the black coaches, the black players that were quarterbacks in college. They didn't know how to coach them. They had a game plan. They had a skill set. They had everything they looked at. They never changed. That's why some of those great kids in college, you saw them just go by the wayside once they got to the NFL, and you were like, oh, they're not an NFL talent. That's not the case. Vince Young was destroyed by the NFL. But destroyed by the NFL. Look at how many quarterbacks Jeff Fisher destroyed. Shit, he almost destroyed Jared Goff. Wasn't just Vince. Case Keenum had a fairly decent career. Cut his ass. Didn't he cut Nick Foles? Why do I see Rams and Nick Foles? I may be wrong on that one. I thought he was a Ram, but I don't think it was him. I think it was somebody else he blew out. Had them all in the same room and he fired them all. Dude, man. You allowed all those great black quarterbacks in college never to fulfill their opportunity at being a great player in the NFL because the NFL didn't want to change, nor did they want a black face to be the representative of the league or team. All the things fighting it. That's why you have younger. You want to know why you have younger coordinators in there now? Because they don't have that ideology of that old school shit. If they see a kid like Jalen, how about this? Let me ask you this. 5 years ago, does Jalen Hurts make it in the NFL? No way. No way. No way. They'd have made him a drop back, a clear drop back. And they would have frowned on him running. Would they have not? Foles and Fisher ran the Rams into the – oh, that's right. That's right. So he cut an MVP of the Super Bowl. Foles was with the Rams? So you had that guy in your locker room. You couldn't figure it out. Good. Okay. Jalen Hurts doesn't make it in the NFL 10 years ago, 5 years ago, because he'd have been with some old school offensive coordinator who would have said he doesn't have good skill set to throw the ball. He's not a pocket guy. They'd have moved on from him. And guess what? Jalen would have had to play another position. The racist NFL right there, hidden under the sheets right there. No pun intended. But hidden under the sheets right there. But because these young kids, okay, Randall, yeah, you know what Buddy did with Randall? Go do what you need to do. I'll take care of the defense. I really don't give a shit about the offense. That's why Randall made it. Don't you guys see when Kotai got in there and tried to put the reins on him, and they tried to put the reins on Randall, they ran Randall into the ground. And he hated Philly. When Randall Cunningham left Philadelphia, he hated Philly because of what they did to him. Buddy let him be Randall. Buddy was ahead of the game, actually. Go ahead, Randall. Do what you do, dude. And they won a ton of games doing it. But when Kotai got him, they tried to harness him and rein him in. Never worked. Because that's not who Randall was. You couldn't give Randall a structured play like Brady. Nor would you want to. That's what the Eagles do with Jalen. They don't give him a structured play. Jalen formulates the structure, his intelligence. CD, I don't know, man. Would Andy have been would Andy have been good with Jalen? I don't know. I don't know because I've never seen Andy have to coach a guy like that. I'm going to say no. Because here's the quarterbacks I remember Andy Reid with. Well, he had Vic. Vic was a Pro Bowler, too. I think Vic was a Pro Bowler with Andy Reid. If I'm not mistaken, I thought Vic made the Pro Bowl with him. So maybe, because Andy's such a good play caller, and he would have probably formulated but he had his last quarterbacks. I mean, his most successful quarterbacks have been Donovan, Alex Smith, and Mahomes. But Andy's, like Yale said, Andy's a throw-first guy, man. He's not going to sit around running RPOs. That's not his game. So I don't think he would have been a good coach for him. Makes me even think that I wonder if Doug would have been a good coach for him. This coaching staff right here is exactly what and again, I'm taking Nick Sirianni with his kids, and I see what they do and how they coach. They're patient. Joe Madden told me this a long time ago. When I covered the Tampa Bay Rays, I asked Joe Madden this. Joe, man, how do you get talent out of like Cliff Floyd and Evan Longoria and all these guys? And some people even Canseco. Canseco got hurt, but he had 34 homers at the break. He was on pace for some massive number. But he was getting Carl Crawford and all these guys to play just exceptional ball. He goes, Dan, man, for me, it's about having individual relationships with each and every single guy in my dugout so that when I go to him and I'm constructive, he doesn't take it as being destructive. So if I holler at him, he's not going to sit there and go, this guy's screaming at me. So if I holler at Carl Crawford for not hustling or doing something, he knows it comes from a place of love. Now I just want him to be better. If you don't have a personal relationship with every single guy in your dugout or locker room, you can't succeed as a coach. You can't scream at half the locker room. You've got to coach the entire locker room. And I think that's what this staff does. And I'm not saying Doug didn't do that. I'm saying the new form of coaching today. That's why you're seeing the Brandon Staley's, the Shane Steichen names. You're seeing all these young guys getting chances, even Nathaniel Hackett. All these young guys getting opportunities to coach because you know why? They're going to look at a kid for what he is, not what you want him to be. And I think that's coaching. You see, I posted this before. And I'm so happy. My wife would tell the guy, and she would tell Rich McKay, go F yourself. Rich came on our program and said, we screwed you up, Sileo. The Buccaneers ruined you. I didn't help myself. But they did. They drafted me. I had never played nose guard in my life. I didn't even know how to play the nose guard. I didn't know what the technique was. I'd never played it. I had never played it. I was a left one gapper. I was a one technique defensive tackle that got up the field and made 100 tackles every year. And sacks and tackles for losses. They had me two gapping. I'm like, what is that? They wanted me to hold up the center and guard so that the linebackers can make. And they weren't very good linebackers. And Rich, who's the president of the Falcons, came on our program and said that. I posted the video of it. And I'm sitting there going like this. Man, that's the first time I've ever heard an executive go, we screwed you up, Dan. We drafted you and played you out of position. That's what most coaches did during that era with quarterbacks. If you were a really skilled super athlete in college, they didn't want the super athlete. And they didn't want the face. But I'm saying this to you. This coaching staff was hired by Howie Roseman because of Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts is not the quarterback here, I wonder, is that coaching staff the right coaching staff? Say they have another guy in there. Could Chip have coached him? No. You think Belichick could coach Jalen? No, he'd have him too boxed. He'd have too many parameters and too many guardrails for him. Belichick couldn't coach Jalen Hurts. You know why? I figured something out. This is where I'm going with this. Do you know why Jalen Hurts failed at Alabama? Because Nick couldn't coach him. Nick Saban failed at coaching Jalen Hurts at Alabama. No one has gone there. Tua was easier to coach because Tua was the prototype. The coaching staff in Alabama failed Jalen Hurts because they didn't know how to coach him. You can't go from being what you're seeing right now in college or what he was in college to what you're seeing now in the pros and not come away with that distinction. Nick Saban failed at coaching Jalen Hurts. You know, I had a take on Hassan Reddick. Okay, well, they figured out how to coach Hassan Reddick. The coaching staff may not have the game plans that I like, but you know what they do have? Their observation of player skill is as good as any coaching staff in the NFL. Nick Saban. Tone, make sure our boy, Nick Saban, failed Jalen Hurts because he did not know how to coach Jalen Hurts. They didn't. Tua was easier. Tua was more accurate. Okay, fair, he is. But Jalen had a higher ceiling and more ability to beat you in the run game. Gee, run game, quarterback, SEC. I don't know. So you're trying to tell me with Calvin Ridley, with Jalen Waddle, with Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts couldn't find those guys too if you didn't coach him right? Lincoln Riley saw it. And that's why CeeDee Lamb and him hit it off and they made it all the way to the Final Four. Hurts was second in the Heisman. I had this take last night, and I didn't think about it. And everybody at Alabama now wants to claim him. Well, let's take a look at that. It's like Ohio State wanting to claim Joe Burrow. You failed him. They didn't know how to coach Joe Burrow. Gee, who would have thunk? The worst college football program in America for producing quarterbacks is Ohio State University. And you didn't know how to coach Joe Burrow. Go figure. You told him to go somewhere else. You ever think of that? Sean goes like this. Jalen threw 4K with Ridley. Yeah, and then he lost his job and was fired. How does a guy that throws for 4K with Ridley lose his job? Because 2 is better? How? He surely wasn't more durable. Jalen was the Southeastern Conference Player of the Year. Lost in a national title game. Shouldn't he have had a chance to keep his job? Oh. Nick Saban in Alabama failed Hurts. But what did Hurts do? Finish his degree. And like my grandfather always used to say, which was always awesome, you start something, finish it. Jalen finished his time at Alabama with pride and with dignity and as a great teammate. His respect began there. I will say this one more time to you. You know, you could say all you want about how Hurts is where he is now, but I'm going to put it here to you. Sirianni and that coaching staff, the way that they have handled him and coached him, is a testament to them not putting guardrails on him. I don't know if a lot of coaching staffs could have gotten what they got out of him. Remember this, Nick Saban couldn't. Nick Saban and Alabama failed him because they didn't know how to coach him. Sirianni's staff and Steichen and them, they put no guardrails on him. Jalen, go out and win. That's where you are. Now, I've got to sit here and I got to put this out here now. Merrill Reese, please. The legendary Merrill Reese joins us now. Merrill, this is your 4th Super Bowl now?
It is.
Okay. Hey, wait. You can't be that cavalier. You can't. Sorry, you just can't be that cavalier and go, hey, this is my 4th Super Bowl. You know, Dan, hey, you know.
Yeah, but I'm only 1 and 2.
Still, Merrill, what makes this game so fun for you? And is there anything? Now, obviously, you haven't been to Glendale yet till next week when it comes to the 4th Super Bowl, but some of the travels and some of the things that you've experienced in these games, just some stories, some things that maybe will always stick out for you going to these games.
You know, to be really honest with you, Dan, other than maybe trying to get around to golfing or something, all of the other stuff it's not that wonderful. All the crush of media, the media day where you have a million people running around, some asking the stupidest questions you've ever heard. Players who don't really want to be doing what they're doing that night, the 4th press conferences during the week. To me, it's all about the game and the fun of leading up to it. But that's what it's all about. The fact that it is the game to determine the champion of the year. That's what it is, to win the Lombardi Trophy. There was never a Super Bowl for me that compared with Super Bowl 52.
Oh, absolutely, because of the win and how that thing went down against the GOAT. But even the 1980 Super Bowl that you played against the Raiders, that whole buildup, Philly, I mean, to think where Vermeil had taken that organization from where it was 6 years earlier, and all of a sudden there you are, Merrill. I mean, you had beaten the Cowboys to get to that game. Surely that was a monumental moment for you.
Yeah, they had beaten the Raiders during the season.
Right.
And that was the team they faced in the Super Bowl, and there were a couple of unfortunate interceptions early in the game, and it turned early, and it was not a suspenseful game. The Raiders controlled that game, and they won it rather unfortunately easily. Jim Plunkett was the man, and the Eagles had a early touchdown called back by an illegal procedure, but that was a disappointing Super Bowl. I always tell people the greatest thing in the world is to get to a Super Bowl and win it and wake up the morning after the Super Bowl and you're floating. And the worst feeling in the world as a player, as a broadcaster, as a fan, is to wake up the morning after the Super Bowl where your team lost that game, where you went that distance and just didn't finish. There is no worse feeling in the world than to lose it. And you know what? I also remember, you're talking about memories. I remember getting on the plane in 1981 after they had just lost Super Bowl 15. And that was a bright young team. And Ron Jaworski had a great season. And they had Wilbur Montgomery, and they had great offensive linemen like Jerry Sizemore and Stan Walters. And they had great defensive players like Bill Berge. And they were great, and everybody got on the plane to come back. And the guys were saying, you know what? We know what it's all about. You have to experience these things. Next year, we're going to come back and win this thing. Well, that was 1981, and they didn't get another shot at it until, 2004. 2004. All those years. So you have an opportunity, and you've got to catch in.
Merrill, do you think that game was the end of Vermeil or the beginning of the end of Vermeil when they lost to the Raiders?
No. I think the players' strike, the following in 82.
Yeah, the 82 strike. I was in the 87 strike, so the 82 strike, right? I forgot about that.
I think that took a lot out of him. There was a lot of it really, really beat him down because he gave so much to that team, so much of himself, and he got to the point where that was the first time I ever heard the term used, burnt out. But he really was. And I thought he'd come back, take a rest, and come back a few years later. Well, he didn't come back for 14 years. But then he won the Super Bowl.
I know. And he was a hell of a broadcaster, too.
How
about this?
Great man. He's a great man.
I love Coach Vermeil. And, Mike Martz. I'll tell you a quick story about him and Kurt Warner. You're going to love this. So, Trent Green goes down. And Dick was on the hot seat because they hadn't really had a good year the year before. And he was on the hot seat going into that final season because they thought they had a lot of talent on that team with Marshall Faulk and all them guys. So all of a sudden he gets hurt in the preseason game, and every guy to the T except for Martz and him. And all of a sudden they went around the table after he got hurt, and he goes like this. Martz goes, "What do you want to do, Dick? Do you want to trade for a quarterback? We're right here, man." All their jobs were on the line. And he looks at Martz and he goes, there's something about this Warner guy. There's just something about this guy. And you know what? I'm going to go with him. And right there in the room, everybody put their head down and thought the season was over. Guy goes out, has an MVP season, wins the MVP in a Super Bowl, and everyone couldn't believe. It just shows you how important, and I think there's some similarities between Vermeil and Sirianni when it comes to knowing a person, what buttons to push and what buttons not to push. Having personal relationships with people. You can drive somebody, Merrill, as hard as you can if you have a personal relationship with that guy, because that guy's not going to look at it as destructive. He'll look at it as constructive. Do you see those similarities between those two?
Yeah, I do. But you also repeated another story. That by the story you just gave, the example you just gave was when Carson Wentz went down in 2017, and in came Nick Foles, who was considered a backup. And Carson Wentz, at that point, I know what's happened since, but at that point, he was the favorite for the MVP of the league when he went down against the Rams. And Nick Foles came in and played a so-so game against the Giants and didn't play very well on a Christmas night game against the Raiders, and didn't play that well in the first playoff game against Atlanta. And then in the second half, he lit it up. They came within one Julio Jones catch of maybe losing that first round game. And then they came back in that game against Minnesota, and that was phenomenal. And Nick was the MVP of Super Bowl 52. So there's cases where the quarterback went down. Now, it better not happen this time.
No way. I mean, it's one of the greatest iconic moments watching him and Foles in the Philly special. I'll never forget that moment.
I'm happy the Eagles won. I am. I'm thrilled that the Eagles won. I'm not happy with the way it occurred. I mean, I honestly can feel the frustration of the 49ers who had that young quarterback, Brock Purdy, pick it up and win 8 straight games, 6 in the regular season, 2 in the playoffs. And then early in this game, be knocked out of the game with an elbow injury that made him totally ineffective. He couldn't throw. He couldn't throw more than 5 yards. First time in all these years, Dan, that I've done a game where in the second half, and of course, Josh Johnson, not that he's a great quarterback, but he couldn't come back because he was ruled out with concussion protocol. So the first time I've ever seen a team with nobody on the field who could throw the ball. Those fans, I understand the frustration that they felt. Their chance, they were over by halftime. It was over.
I tweeted out, Merrill. I said that as soon as Purdy went down, they had no chance to compete for that thing. And and you know what, too, Merrill? I said this. The Eagles didn't really play. I mean, if you take the 30-yard pass that wasn't a catch away, they had 239 yards in total offense, and they were just patient. They were going to wear them out. They didn't have to do anything spectacular.
They did what
right. They didn't have to because they knew they could run the ball eventually in the second half. They got them in the third quarter. They ran them off the scoreboard, and so they didn't play high percentage turnover football. They were like this, Merrill. Why should I throw passes down the field, keep the 49ers going maybe with some 3 and outs, maybe a turnover? It doesn't make sense. They can't beat us. And so I was like this. I mean, you take the 30-yard pass away. Jalen has 93 yards passing and 42 yards rushing. They didn't have to be spectacular. Right. But it's a testament to that defense. It's a testament to that defense, Merrill. That kid, Hassan Reddick, he wrecked that game.
I don't know why he's not in consideration.
Holy cow.
Player of the year, because I've watched him week in and week out, and he's been amazing. He's been amazing. He does everything. He knocks down passes. He makes tackles. He had 16 sacks during the regular season. He picks up fumbles. He does everything. He's been the biggest factor on the defense.
Merrill, I have never seen anything like this since Pittsburgh. He has been shot out of a gun. He's a bullet. I mean, he destroyed that game, completely destroyed that game. I mean, the hits, the pressures. I mean, he's undefensible right now. And I said this, I don't care what anyone says. He's Howie Roseman's greatest free agent sign in the history of him running that team. There's not been anybody that has made bigger impact as a free agent than what that guy has done. And that's a testament to the coaching staff too, Merrill.
Yeah, Howie's done a great job, and he made some signings before that were very impactful. I mean, going back to that Super Bowl 52, picking up LeGarrette Blount. I mean, he was
huge red zone rushing, absolutely.
Absolutely, what he meant was enormous. And now this year, it's not just the signing of Hassan, because he's the best. He is the number one. But I want to tell you other keys. Other keys were right before the season, adding C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who had 6 interceptions and still missed 4 or 5 games. And then when he picked up James Bradbury, who the Giants let walk, and James Bradbury has been the perfect pairing for Darius Slay. I mean, this defense, these were great moves. These were really great moves. Kaiser White has done a good job. It's been a terrific construction of a team. And then, of course, the draft night trade for A.J. Brown. It's unbelievable.
How about this too, Merrill? I said this earlier in the program. With the retirement of Brady, there's so many free agents that are going to be on this Eagle team. There's 16. Sayamalo, Kaiser White, TJ, CJ, all of them. You know what, Merrill? With the way the NFC's looking, maybe the Packers don't trade Rodgers to the Jets. If they do, think about the NFC. Dak, Stafford, who? I mean, the Eagles are so set up. They may lose some players, but as long as they do things right, and Howie's done them right, I mean, you could be looking at this thing here where you're going to have to go through Philadelphia for the next 3 years because the Eagles are ascending still because the quarterback doesn't make any money. You got draft equity, and the NFC has almost imploded. I mean, look at San Francisco's quarterback situation, Merrill. I mean, Purdy's not ready for 6 months. You got Trey Lance, Garoppolo's out of there. They're a headless horseman. This could be a decent run here for Philly for the next 3 years, and that's an eternity in the NFL. 3 years.
Yeah, you're saying that. I've seen columns to that effect that this is the team for the next 4 or 5 years, whatever. But I don't say that ever. I look at one thing, and they have a game to win in a matter of days, because it doesn't always happen the way it appears. You lose 2 or 3 free agents, and they become they become free agents you really can't afford to lose. And then you have a key person or two knocked out by injuries. This game can be changed so quickly. Once in a blue moon, you have a pairing like Belichick and Brady, and you have a dynasty. Or once in a blue moon, you have the Steel Curtain, and you have a dynasty. Or you have the Bill Walsh and Montana and Rice and Taylor and that whole group, and you have a dynasty. But it's very, very rare, and it's very difficult to project, particularly at the beginning. In 2001, when Donovan and Andy took the Eagles to their big playoff run, they took it to the NFC Championship game against the Rams in St. Louis, and the Eagles lost. And everybody figured, well, this is going to be the team to beat for a long time. And you know what? They went to 5 NFC Championship games and won Super Bowl and lost. And it was never the same.
Absolutely. Merrill, what's been the funnest ride for you, 17 or this ride?
Well, 17, because I know how it ended.
Take the ending out. The run.
I can't. All right. Which is if you want to change the question.
The run to the game. What was a funner run for you? 17 or this one?
They're all fun, but this was the better team. That was fun the way it worked out, but this is a more complete team. That was a good
Merrill,
team.
you think the 2022 team is better than the 17 team?
Yes, in terms of complete, top to bottom. I was on a talk show. They're not all fun like this. I was on a talk show last week out in San Francisco, and the host, Greg Papa, who's the voice of the 49ers.
Great guy. I've known Greg Papa. I worked with him at KMBR.
Well, so he has me on, and he said to me, "Tell me, what are the Eagles' weaknesses?" And I thought for a second, and I said, "They don't have any overt weaknesses. I mean, they don't have any." And then he said, "Well, that's not what I wanted to hear." And he wrapped up the interview, and the engineer left my mic closed, but I could still hear him. And he said, "Well, I got rid of that guy. That's not what we want to hear." And that was the end of it. I'm thinking, well, this is reality.
Hold on, Merrill. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I worked at KMBR for 6 years, and I know those producers too. What did they say to you?
They didn't say it to me. They said,
wait a minute. Yeah, they said it about you, and you heard this? Well, yes, Merrill, you just started a shit war with me now. I am going to kill Greg Papa for this. I mean, nobody disrespects the Bear. Nobody disrespects the Bear, Merrill.
He popped in the booth on Sunday and gave me a big hug. That's all.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. But I mean, he couldn't stand to hear that the Eagles had no weaknesses. Now, listen, they have no weaknesses. I think they're a better team than Kansas City. As we look at the rosters, as we look at starting positions, they're a better team than Kansas City. That doesn't mean they're going to win. The better team doesn't always win. Things happen in the course of a game. An injury here, a bad bounce there, a call that went the wrong way. And so many things happen in the course. An
injury.
I'll tell you this. The Eagles have floated through these 2 games. The Giants were nowhere near them, and they just ran them. They just wrecked them quickly. And then usually I make my wife nervous. She hates when I deem a game over before it's over, because she said you can't do that. And, so many times it happens. But this time there were 43 seconds left in the third quarter. 43 seconds left in the third quarter. And I dared to say there are 15 minutes and 43 seconds left in this game, separating the Eagles from Super Bowl 57. They're going to the Super Bowl. In the third quarter, I said that. And even Mike he said, "You're a little bold." I said, bold? They're up 28-7 at that point, and the 49ers have nobody who can throw the ball. It was over. It was over. That's not going to happen here. I don't care. I don't care if they wrap Patrick Mahomes' legs in duct tape. and he has to hop around like a kangaroo, this is going to be a game because he is so magnificent. He is so creative that he will keep that team in the game. That game could go down to the final seconds the way Super Bowl 52 went. There, Kansas City, and Andy's a great coach. Nick's done a terrific job too. Andy's a great coach, but he'll have this whole thing plotted out.
Well, real quick before I get to my couple last questions here, you saved Greg Papa a lot of embarrassment just now. I'm glad he came in because I know him very well, and I'd have kicked his ass on the air, and I would have got him good for that.
I forgive him, Dan.
Okay, you forgive him? Okay, then I'm good too. So if you're all right with it, I'm all right with it. Facing Andy Reid, I said this about this Kansas City team, Merrill. I went like this. The D-line, okay, you got Chris Jones and then kind of the kid from Purdue. You're not taking out that Eagle O-line. I mean, there's three Pro Bowlers on it, and the guy was hurt this year. Could have been a Pro Bowler. I mean, then you look at the running game. Kansas City doesn't have a running game. You look at the linebackers. They're not very good at linebackers, so it's a push. The back end, you got two rookies. You got two rookies sitting there. You got two rookies sitting there at cornerback position. You're going to guard A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I mean, the thing that I think that makes it a game, Merrill, is that Kelsey, Mahomes, and Reed, those three guys are first ballot Hall of Famers. If they can get Kelsey loose and they can get any type of running game going, it'll be close. But in my opinion, I don't see the advantage that Kansas City has. If they can't get a running game going and Mahomes can't move around, I don't know. I mean, I think the 49ers are a better team.
Well, better defense for sure.
Well, I mean, look, they got Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and Ayuk, and they couldn't get to any of them because they had no quarterback. Kansas City has none of that.
No.
So to me, like you said, it's really Andy Reid. How do you feel about facing Andy Reid here? I mean, this is the Andy Reid Bowl. You spent so many years with him. You got to be a little conflicted. I know your heart and where it is, but still, it's your friend.
Listen, I texted him the minute they won the game and congratulated him. And I said, I'm looking forward to seeing you. And at 2:32 in the morning, Andy texted me back and said, congratulations, Merrill. Looking forward to seeing you. He's a great man. So, but listen, you know where my heart lies. There's no doubt about it. I'm not a homer ever. I don't root.
No, listen to your broadcast. You're more of a homer with me than you are on your own broadcast. Hey, I'm driving in the car. We got you on Sirius. I'm listening to, I go like this. I looked over at my wife. I go, he'll say the most critical stuff on the air. I ask him, he goes, we got to go here and there. And I'm going like this. Wait a minute. Man, you see the game through your prism of what you're seeing now. And it's because of the equity you've built up in that market for all these great legendary years that you can just give people the game. Merrill, I think so many broadcasters make themselves the game. You're one of the very last people that gives the game on how you see it through your prism. And it's right on. I mean, it's right on. That's a true testament to you never wanting to be the star.
Well, it's a testament to me having great respect for our audience and wanting to share with them what is really going on. If it's a bad call that happened to go against the opposition, I will say it. And if it's the Eagles were lucky on a call, I will say that too. Or if they're not playing particularly well, I never run anybody down. But if a guy should have made the catch, I'm going to say he should have made that catch.
You've been critical on special teams this year, and so have I. I'm like this.
Sure.
To me, this year, the Eagles, it was like a guy hitting a fungo bat and watching a guy with pop-ups. I mean, catching the ball in the 9-8 yard line, dude, let that go in. Maybe it goes into the end zone. You're still starting in horrible field position, whether it's the 8 or the 7. They've got to rectify that in the offseason. And you're critical of that because special teams has put them sometimes, like it did early in that NFC title game, it put them in bad field position.
Yeah, but you know what? They've gotten better. They have made some adjustments.
They have.
They brought up a guy named Christian Ellis from the practice squad, and he's done great things. And they have another kid to watch out for. and he's really good. He really shows you something. Number 27. Watch out for number 27, Zach McPherson. He is something special on special teams. He could make a big play in this game that impacts it. 27, Zach McPherson.
Okay, I'm going to leave you with this here, and I want you to comment on it here. So here's your predictions. Doug Peterson's going to be the Coach of the Year candidate. By the way, Trevor Lawrence is going to make the Pro Bowl. All true happened. and you're like this. Keep an eye on Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell. These guys here. And I realized something in the first half of that NFC title game. Miles, as great a season as he has, he's not those two guys getting out in the perimeter. And Gainwell and Boston are faster. So they were able to get down and break down the edges. They saw that. That's why Gainwell, I think Gainwell has played exceptionally well in both the Giant game and in the 49er game. And they were critical yards, Merrill. He's really he has to have impressed people.
Yeah, he's been great. And Boston Scott, we call him the Giant Killer, but he scored another touchdown this week against the 49ers. He is, shot from a gun. He comes out of a cannon.
He sure does. Oh, okay. One last thing here, and I'm going to sneak this in on you. There is a new Philadelphia treasure. Her name is Taylor Sirianni. I don't know if you've seen the video yet of the look. Do me a favor. After this, and then text me. It's the little daughter sitting there at the press conference. Mm-hmm. When the father's talking about 3rd and 4, she goes like this. She's mimicking her father. Good Morning America, Yahoo Sport, everybody, 18 million views. She is a new her father goes like this. Hey, what we're trying to do is and she's going, we're just trying to do everything we can. And finally, Sirianni goes, Taylor, stop it. Please stop it. Please stop it. The other 3 kids are going like this. They're pulling their faces. Everyone look ahead. Everyone look ahead. And I go, this is why this guy should be Coach of the Year. Because those 3 people he has on his desk right now are harder than anything he has in front of him.
Yeah. You're right. Somebody sent me a video today, Dan, and I don't like to blow my own horn or anything, but I got the biggest kick out of it. It's you can Google it. It's on Paramount or something. It's out there. It's Fletcher Cox, and the seconds are ticking down, and he's sitting on the bench, and the 2 guys with him, and he says, "Boy," he said, "we're going to the Super Bowl," and then he says, "Boy, I'd like to hear Merrill Reese say it." I was hysterical.
I love it, Merrill. Merrill, another legendary ride for you, and no one calls it better than you. And you know what? People used to always go, "Hey," before I started talking Philly sports, people were like this, "How you got?" And I've had you on years ago with all my other shows. You've been on when I was in Los Angeles and everywhere else down in Miami. But man, I'll tell you what, listening to you call those games, man, it's personal, and you make those games personal. I enjoy listening to you, man. I just hope you keep going, and I just hope you keep doing it, man. I can't wait for
I'm not going anyplace. I'm not going anyplace. I love it.
By the way, 31-17 Eagles. I don't care. I'm burying it right now.
Woo.
Yeah.
Woo.
I think it's 30.
Going to be a lot closer than that.
I don't know, man.
All right.
Mahomes ain't healthy. I think Reddick is going to wreak havoc. They should call that Hassan Wreck-It, not Reddick.
He does it, but he hasn't rushed the likes of Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes ran the ball to set up the winning field goal. Of course,
he did.
Personal foul, the penalty was big too. And keep in mind that he's got 2 weeks to rest and come back even stronger. So listen, I love your prediction. Love it. But it's not going to make me sleep any better.
Hey, Merrill, thank you for all your valuable time, and it's really
my pleasure.
Oh, it's an honor to have you so much. Thank you, my friend.
Okay, take care.
You got it. The legendary Merrill Reese, man. I love talking to that man, and I'll tell you what, you guys in Philly, it is so awesome to listen to him and Mike Quick call games, man. They do such a great job. That's such a fabulous team. And how they call it, man. Yeah, hey, I don't mean any – hey, listen, You know me. I'm Mr. Pessimist. Am I not? You guys all know this. I'm a pessimist at heart. Okay? That's how I do my show. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and tell you some bullshit and go, I think Kansas City's got massive matchups where they favor them. I don't see it. I don't see it, man. It must just be me. But, oh, yeah, Harry Callis used to come. Hey, Harry Callis used to come on my show all the time. I forgot I was friends with him. Holy cow, Harry Callis used to be. Todd Callis, just so you know, and I are best friends. Oh, Todd Callis and I, because Todd called the Tampa Bay Ray games for a while. Yeah. Oh, that's right. And I know how I met Harry Callis. I met him in Clearwater. Does that make sense to you guys? Why does that make sense? I met Harry Callis in Clearwater. Why do I say I met Harry Callis in Clearwater? What was I doing? What was I doing that I met Harry Callis in Clearwater, Florida? That's right, William. That's where I met Francona. Francona was, that's right. That's right. Baseball, that's it. That's right. And then I met Todd through that because Todd introduced me to his dad because he was working for the Rays. Thank you, guys. Thank you. That's right. Phillies minor league is in Clearwater, Florida. It's a great complex, too. I've been there a billion times. I've actually called games from there. It's a great complex. The Yankees, the Blue Jays are in Dunedin. Yankees are on Del Mabry. Phillies are in Clearwater. Pirates and Astros are in Kissimmee. Braves are in Orlando. I've been to every one of them. Got to take a time out. Hour 3. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades. No judgment zone for credit issues. The best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.
Weather forecasting is a team game.
We rely on each other every day, updating the models and passing along new critical information.
We have a team of 5 experienced meteorologists and a specialized weather producer, Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Sometimes what I see in the model, Cecily could see something different.
That's when we come together as a team to make our most accurate prediction.
And all of this backed by more than 100 AccuWeather scientists. It's a team game.
And we have the best team in town.
post-game show with Seth Joyner,
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn,
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney,
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
and Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
So now I pissed off all the Alabama fans. It's not what I do here. You failed Jalen Hurts. You failed that. You can't have a Super Bowl. Dude, understand something about this. I'm not backtracking on style of play and all that. All I'm saying to you is this. He's overcome every single thing that every quarterback you've ever had in your building has ever had. It might turn out that Jalen Hurts is the greatest quarterback since Namath that has come out of there. Oh, Stabler and Namath. Who's better? What Alabama quarterback has been better since Stabler and Namath? Richard Todd? No. Who? So now the Alabama fans are saying, how can you say Saban failed them? We won a national title game. Well, because here's why. Nick Saban's responsibility is not to develop Jalen Hurts into the best NFL player. It's to win games and make himself his money and all of his incentives at Alabama and to appease Bama fans. Not to help Jalen Hurts. I don't give a shit what coach tells you that. You see, the difference between NFL coaches and college coaches, they lie to you, the college coaches. How can a coach make $12 million a year and honestly tell you he gives a shit about you? NFL coach, whether you're making $10 million or he's making $20, I'm getting paid for it. Now, it's changed a little bit now with nil, right? It's changed with nil now because the kids are starting to get paid. So all I'm saying to you is, think about that. So Jalen Hurts not only had an MVP season, his team's in the Super Bowl, and Nick Saban couldn't do shit with that guy. It took his job away from him because he wasn't accurate enough. Well, you should have coached him better. Nick Sirianni took an Alabama flunky. And I mean that only in verbiage, not in reality. You know what dude, they took Alvin Kamara had to leave the program and go to Tennessee. How many backs are better in the NFL than Alvin Kamara that came out of Alabama? Well, he had to transfer to Tennessee. Let me think. Derrick Henry. Who would you rather have? Derrick Henry? Who was the other guy that won the Heisman there, running back? Not Najee Harris. Najee's pretty good. Kid in Pittsburgh. Who's the guy that won the Heisman Trophy? Who's the guy that won the Heisman that played in Baltimore and in New Orleans? Yeah, Mark Ingram. Thank you very much, Mercy. Who's better, Alvin Kamara or Mark Ingram? Alvin Kamara. Nick couldn't do shit with him either. Now, I'm not saying you're going to hit on all these guys. Chris goes this. They ran an offense that hurts his strengths in college and that they can win games running 90% of the time. Yeah, but they didn't win the game. He was beaten in the title game there. He was beaten in the title game. Yeah, Josh Jacobs is solid. He more than solid. He led the NFL in rushing. That's more than solid. I'll give it to you. I know. I just said that, Sean. He was first started at Bama, and Saban said he can't play here anymore because they had too many backs, and they did. At least he was honest with him, and so he went to Tennessee, and he's a star in the NFL. All I'm saying to you is, So nobody brings that, because you know why nobody wants to say anything about Nick Saban, because he's won all the national titles. Well, here's something that's a reality. And again, every time I say something, people get a little bit bent because I point out the truth. Saban was the worst coach. You want to hear something crazy? Okay. Saban was the worst coach in Jalen Hurts' career. Lincoln Riley was even better. At least they got to a semifinal with him. He did get to a national championship game. They got beat by Deshaun Watson's dudes. But Riley, he had more success because Riley put to his skill set, run the ball. Kind of the same offense that he ran in Oklahoma, they're kind of running in Philadelphia now. Lincoln Riley, here. The best coaches he's had is Sirianni and Steichen, Lincoln Riley, and the third is Saban. Oh, yeah, well, we had so much time. That's the point. Get this. Jalen Hurts had just as much talent around him at Alabama as he has at Philadelphia. Superstar wideouts, great O-line, spectacular running backs, great coordinators. They couldn't figure it out. Hey, by the way, that scenario played itself out at Ohio State with Joe Burrow. Who would have thought? Two cast-off quarterbacks are going to make $45 to $50 million and were drafted in the same draft and had to leave their respected places. Legendary programs. Do you understand when you transfer and I transferred, they're telling you to get the fuck out? Do you understand that? Get out. We want the scholarship for someone else. Hurtful. 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 Then you get a coach put his arm around you. Act decent, Sileo, and you can play at Miami here. You know what today is? It's official National Letter of Intent Day. It's one of the greatest days of my life. I officially became a Miami Hurricane today. Outside of my family, my kid, everything, that's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, a Miami Hurricane. I would think Jalen Hurts being a Philadelphia Eagle is the greatest thing ever happened to him outside of his family and loved ones. Yeah, right? Right, Will's father's probably the third best coach. Okay, probably. Maniac, you're right. Aunt Betty, sorry about the F-bomb. See? Maniac. Hey, Maniac, I got an idea. Do you think I should possibly do this? Maybe I should have a swear jar, put $1 in it, and then donate it. My aunt would say, use it on rent. Right? Get a swear jar. GT second contract sales. For who? Hurts? I care for your well-being, Sills. So don't worry. I'll get hammered. He took it on the chin and worked his ass off, Josh. He surely did, man. He surely did. Look, I know you guys. Look, this game's going to really tell me a lot about him even more. My whole entire perception could change on Jalen Hurts come February 12th. Because know this, guys. You can't be an MVP candidate, win a Super Bowl, and go like this. Well, the guy's a one-year wonder. You don't get to that kind of level, that kind of consistency, and that good, and are that good of a guy when you get out of bed in the morning. That guy doesn't come off like a bullshit artist to me. No, that's not an illusion. Smart. Watch this. This sounds so bad. Is he as athletic as Lamar? No. Is he smarter? Yes. Has he got the same kind of skill set as Lamar? Yes. Is he a better teammate than Lamar? Yes. Jalen playing hurt? Yes. Lamar won't. Well, Lamar doesn't have his money. Jalen does. So if Jalen Hurts goes out and shits the bed, and I get, hey, by the way, I get why you guys are protecting him when Dan says he played bad in the NFC title game. Because you don't want the impression out there that the Eagles will use that against him in negotiations. Guys, they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it anyway. But since they won the game, that game, if he wins the Super Bowl and plays well in it, that NFC title game won't matter. Okay? That NFC title game. And I get it. I know why you protected him. No, I know why you came after me. Sills, you talk shit on him like that. You know the Eagles are going to use that against him. You know that. Yeah, but you can't deny that. As much as you don't want to hear it, you know that. Dude, this is a truth conversation we have. It's not personal. You know this. Watch. Hey, ENT goes, Sills, did you hear anything about the Eagles old lineman who got indicted? He's like some sort of like the 55th guy on the roster. I don't give a shit. Cut him, do whatever. I could care less. If it's a distraction to the team, cut him. If not, who cares? He has no impact on the team. It's troubling. It's not cool. Nobody wants to have a situation. Even if he's innocent, I don't care. I don't want to hear it. The reason I didn't bring it up, it's a non-starter for me. Only people in the media in Philadelphia will bring something like up to try to make it into something, and it's nothing. It's a nothing burger for you and me. Has no bearing on the game. Does that make the Eagles look bad? No. It's that kid. Because you know why? The Eagles have a tradition of not having shitheads on the team. If the Eagles were a team that hired 1,000 losers, then there's one thing to talk about. Okay, if you have Greg Hardy on your team, that's something else. They didn't know anything about this. It's nothing on them. Hey, man, you got 100 guys in a room. You think they're all going to be good dudes? Dude, get your bag. Get the hell out of here. Get out. I don't need it right now. I got a bunch of good dudes I'm taking to Glendale. You ain't it. Dude, cut the guy. I don't give a shit about him. What if he's innocent? I don't care. I don't want anybody involved in anything. Watch this. Sills, a guy got picked up for stealing sunglasses. I don't care. Make him run some laps. Rape? Got to stand for something in your locker room, boys. Nick Sirianni can't have a daughter like Taylor and sit there and think that's cool, even if he's innocent. I don't want any of that. Disrespect to women, elderly, and animals are out in my locker room. I don't care if you walk into a 7-Eleven and you use a banana to rob it, and the cops pull you over and say, did you use a banana to rob the 7-Eleven? Yeah, I'm going to try to figure out a way to keep you if you're worth it. If you're not, get out. I'm not having any of that. Disrespect to women, number one, a priority. Number one priority. And maybe I'm more sensitive to that because I have a daughter. Huss, I'll tell you this. I've already got a we got a bounty guy. What's his name? His name is, my wife knows it. It's something like Zito. He's a really cool dude. His name is Zito. Me and my wife already have it planned out. If somebody like says anything or does anything to my daughter, I will kill them. And they'll come and bail me out, I think. But I'm already prepared for that. You do anything to my daughter, I will take you out. You'll think I'm a mafia hitman. You can't have that in your locker room. Because you know why? I don't want the rest of my players and my other 52 guys having to answer questions about it. What do you think about having a guy in your locker room that's accused of rape. I don't want those guys having to go home to their wives or girlfriends to have to answer that. Okay? I don't want them. And that makes me an accomplice if I have to lie and say, hey, it's cool. Hopefully we get the truth. And I don't, because I wouldn't answer like that. I'd say, I don't want that guy in my locker room. You got to stand for something or you'll fall for everything. There's got to be some parameters in your organization. Like, you guys say this. Hey, you guys say this to me all the time. Dan, how come you support Deshaun Watson then? Who said I support him? Well, you'd want to have him on your team. Well, because the league has him in. If you really wanted to make a stand on Deshaun Watson, you would have banned him for life. What did the NFL do? They gave him a raise. And they guaranteed $250 million, giving him the greatest contract in NFL history with 25 cases of sexual misconduct. That's not a me thing. The league compromised and put that guy back in the league. That guy should never play. Watch this. I'm probably not sure I've ever really landed here with this. That guy should never play football in the NFL ever again. He couldn't get a job at McDonald's. No disrespect to McDonald's. But you couldn't walk in there with 25 misconduct cases against you and get a job. Be a hostile work environment. Nor would I want to hire you. Lee's like, hey, we stand for, women's rights. You do? The face of non-women's rights is in Cleveland. It's in Cleveland. Can't, you gotta have, you gotta be somewhere in the conversation where surely you go, we got to bar him for life. 25 sexual misconduct? Come on, man. How can you sit there and honestly look at a woman fan and go, we really love, my wife, she watches football, but she don't watch as much because she thinks that kind of shit right there is a prime example of what's wrong with the NFL and how they have their players and how players have to eat that bullshit. That's why I say this. Lee let him in. Don't get mad at me for saying I'd want him on my team. The league paid him and gave him a raise. And esports goes, Sills, the entertainment industry is different. Of course it is. Here's the greatest example of that. Heath Ledger. This guy dies of an overdose. They celebrate him in Hollywood. Standing ovation. This kid goes up, gets the Oscar. This guy's a drug addict. Alex Rodriguez takes steroids. He's a viper. Bonds, a complete disgusting human being. Hate Bonds and A-Rod and all the steroid users, and they keep him out of the Hall of Fame. Heath Ledger dies of a drug overdose and is a drug addict, and they celebrate him and give him an Academy Award. Oh, I see. The athlete is the scumbag, but not Heath Ledger. He's gold to those idiots in Hollywood. I mean, right? You could be a drug addict in Hollywood and be a superstar. And people say you're, what is it? Unique or eccentric. When you're an athlete and does steroids to try to make a lot of money and play longer, you're a scumbag. Oh, okay. So as you know, us 9 to 5 people do what we do. Hey, I get it, man. I do. Hey, and esports, I'm you, man. Hoss, I've made a lot of money. I've spent a lot of money. Okay? I've never changed. I'm still that dude from a little section in Connecticut where all these Italian people were raised, down in the water, down near the ocean. And I was raised by a fireman and an aunt and an uncle. 2 uncles, actually. Okay, that's what I was raised with. My wife, the same thing. Though we're not anybody. We're just trying to be somebody. You know? My wife, the coolest thing about my wife and me, we've never wished we were anybody else. That's why I married her. She just never wanted to be anybody else but her. I like people like that. I don't dream about being anybody else. I like who I am. Sauce or gravy. I'm sick of seeing that question. I'm sick of it. All right. I haven't talked about Brady. Who is the greatest team sport champion in pro sports history? Is Brady? Is Brady the greatest team sport champion? I like me, my customers like Dano. Very nicely. Well done. And a absolutely spectacular reference. Planes, trains, and automobiles. Spectacular, Dano. Way to go. Very well placed, my friend. Pele, 4 World Cups. Tremendous, actually. Russell. Kobe. Peter says it's a short list. Here's who I have, and here's who I've put down. I put Russell down. Let me tell you why I put Bill Russell down. Ronaldo? What championships has Ronaldo won? He won Copa, I think. What else did he win? Cristiano Ronaldo? Brazil, Ronaldo. I think he's got 2. Yeah, but Arthur, let me go here with Russell. Russell, he goes like this, won 10 titles. Hang on, Arthur. Don't forget the 2 national titles at USF. Have you ever heard of USF Dons basketball since? So Russell, in a span of 14 years, okay, won 12 titles, 10 NBA championships, 2 national titles in an era where a city hated him. Were shitting in his bed, defecating in his home, writing the N-word in the place of residence where he lived, and fighting racism through the entire 60s. Russell did all this. Couldn't use bathrooms. Couldn't drink from the same water fountain you and me could drink from. Couldn't use the same pisser as you and me. And he did all this. It's one thing just to win 10 titles. White guys can say that. Won 10 titles. John Wooden won 10 titles. He didn't face the adversity Russell faced. Russell got out of bed facing adversity. Add all that in. How about Derek Jeter? How many titles did Jeter win? 5? How many titles did Jeter win? I think it's 5, right? See, I've always said this. Derek Jeter, when you talk about the great Yankees of all time, is he Yogi with 10 titles? No. DiMaggio, Mantle, Gehrig, Ruth, Ford, Howard. Shit, man. The list is arm long when you talk. The Yankee Hall of Fame could maybe put even some of baseball's Hall of Fame members to shame. And Jeter won 5. Okay. Greatest baseball team sport champion we've seen in the last 50 years. See, Reggie won 2 in Oakland, 2 in New York. So he won 4. Maybe they won 3. Did the A's win 3 titles? The A's, they beat the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Reds. They won 3. Reggie's got 5 also. Reggie's got 5. 3 in Oakland and 2 in New York. 77, 78. So Reggie's got 5. That A's team is the greatest baseball team that's ever existed. It's not that Yankee team. It's the A's team with Rudy and Jackson and Bando and Tennis and Vida and Holtzman and Fingers. Dick Williams is the manager. Bro, that whole thing, Campaneris, they were just, it was Bando. The whole team was littered with stars. Shit, you know who the bat boy was for that team? MC Hammer. I mean, MC Hammer was the bat boy for that team. How crazy is that shit? Owner sucked. Jeter's in there, though. Oh, the real goes the Pirates. Clemente's my favorite ball player. Clemente's my favorite ball player. You call Roberto Clemente Bob on a baseball card, and the media in the Pittsburgh Gazette used to get his name wrong. And when they did television spots with him, they'd get his name wrong on purpose because they were racist. You know what Henry Aaron said to me on my radio show years and years ago? He thought that Roberto Clemente faced more racism, and it was harder for him than even Jackie Robinson, because Clemente, when he first got here, couldn't speak the language. Okay? Andrew, Tony Gwynn never won, no. I'm talking about team sport champions. Not just talking about good guys. Ricky Henderson didn't play on those teams. They never played on those teams. I got Maurice Richard. Rocket Richard won 10 Stanley Cups when he was with the Canadiens. One of the greatest, the Rocket, one of the greatest runs of all time. So you might, Gretzky won 4. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the captain, I think he won 6. He won 5 in Edmonton and 1 in New York. And what's his name? He won 4 in Edmonton and he left for Los Angeles. So I would throw probably Rocket Richard as the greatest team sport champion in hockey. Okay, Andrew, thank you, man. Clemente was unbelievable. Hey, by the way, you want to hear something about Clemente? Do you guys know who the general manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates was? I brought all those guys like Manny Sanguian, Doc Ellis, Stargell, Clemente, all the Dominican players into the Pittsburgh organization. Do you know who did all that? Do you guys know who the general manager that found Clemente? You guys have an idea? Now, here's the manager. No, he was the guy that he was the guy that took over for the guy that found him. Do you guys know? Clemente was Puerto Rican. I'm talking okay, I should say in the Caribbeans. You're right. Who was the general manager of the Dodgers when they signed Jackie Robinson? Branch Rickey. Branch Rickey found Clemente. Branch Rickey. You want to know why the National League dominated in the All-Star games in the 60s and early 70s and destroyed the American League? Look where all the black players were. Frank Robinson, Reds. Clemente. Aaron. Mays. Go down the list. Marichal. Gibson. Where were the black players in the American League? Elston Howard? Shit, man. The Red Sox didn't have a black player until 1959. The color line was broken in 47. The guy's name was Pumpsy Green or something. Okay? Dude, all the great black players, and they dominated the American League. Then you have to have MJ. Okay? Then you have to have MJ. But you know what I would always say about MJ? You know the guy that held him back the most? God bless his soul and God rest his soul. Was his college coach, Dean Smith. Dean won 2 national titles, and you had all those guys? What was that about? You talk about underachieving. How can you only win 2 national titles? You got Worthy and Jordan and Dougherty and Jesus criminy. You can go down the list of the greatest basketball players in the history, not only the ACC, of college basketball. 4 corners he had for years. Dean Smith held him back because you know why? He tried to keep Jordan in a box. What did Phil Jackson do to him? Go get it, Mike. But here, Mike, you can't be a scoring champion and win titles. Jordan had to be sold on that by Phil. Remember, he liked the coach before him. That's why he hired him in Washington. He loved him. He loved that coach. But when Phil got there, Doug Collins, he loved him. Yeah, but wait a minute. Wait. I get that. But remember something. If Jordan had any kind of say-tone, Doug Collins would have been the coach. They fired him. He didn't want Phil. Phil told him, yeah, wait a minute now. You're right, he let him cook. He didn't let him win, though. He didn't let him win. Sam Perkins was great. Okay? Hey. He didn't let him win. Phil came in and said, you can't be a scoring champion. We can't win like that. We can't win like that. And the real zeal goes, Sills, wait a minute. The NCAA is a grind. Wooden won 10 titles. And always remember this. I know he had Jabbar and Walton. He won 5 without those 2. Just remember that. He won 5 without those 2. So as great as Jabbar, who's the greatest basketball player of all time, you can't be the greatest college basketball player of all time, the leading scorer in the history of the sport, have just as many titles as Jordan MVPs, and lose 1 game in college. And someone go, well, and him being a legend at Power Memorial, and tell me that this guy was better than Abdul-Jabbar. By the way, with 2 minutes left in a ball game, you want a Jordan 30-footer or you want the sky hook to close the game out? What would you take? The high percentage shot that Jalen would take? Or would you take the 30-footer that Mahomes and Josh Allen would take? I'm assuming that the Philly people would take the Jabbar skyhook because it's a high percentage play. Doug Collins ran everything through Jordan, but Phil knew they couldn't win without a system. Enter Tex Schramm. Jimmy Black was great. Kent Tekulve, sidearm. Pittsburgh had a great organization. Remember, man, they had Bonilla, Bonds, Van Slyke. They had a bunch of – the Pirate organization when I grew up was one of the greatest organizations of all time. How about this? In right field in Pittsburgh, you're telling me in right field in Pittsburgh, For 34 years, you owned the greatest arm in baseball between Clemente and Dave Parker. One of the greatest throws in all-star history is Parker throwing out, I forget, was it Nottingham? At the plate, guy from the Twins. And he throws him out at the plate. Or third. 34 years you owned the best arm in baseball between Clemente and Dave Parker. Don't forget, Parker won 3 batting titles. I mean, so you had Dave Parker and you had Willie Stargell in that organization, and you had Al Oliver, who would go on to win batting titles in Chicago. Rennie Stennett was a fabulous ball player. Shit, Sanguin behind the plate. Sanguin was the guy that when Clemente's plane went down and they didn't ever find the body, went swimming for 2 weeks looking for it. It was his best friend. Al Oliver is a friend of mine, by the way. Neil goes, what happened to the organization? Money. Money and George Steinbrenner. Free agency. It destroyed it. Once free agency hit baseball and the Andy Messerschmidt rule hit, when Andy Messerschmidt became a free agent and Don Gullett left the Reds, that's when baseball turned, and it was never the same for small markets. That's why when you see a team like Kansas City or Milwaukee winning the way they win, it's remarkable because of the finances they don't have. Those new stadiums and those smaller markets matter. Okay? Okay, I mean, dude, the Twins were a great organization. I'll tell you, well, you know one of the greatest organizations, too, that never got a lot of love because they didn't have the money, was the Expos. Dude, you had Pedro in it. You had Randy Johnson in it. You had Ken. You had Walker in it. Man, you had Vlad Guerrero in it. You had a ton of superstars in that Expo organization. But the Expos couldn't. I think they're the Marlins now. Is that what that is? They're like they're kind of like the or are they the Nationals? I forget. Gary Carter, right? Man, they had great players in Montreal. I love that gear, too. That hat will still always be one of my favorites. Tom Brady ain't retired. See, when we start talking topics like this, I'm sorry I go off because I'm a sport. As you can see, Andre Dawson is another friend of mine. He still does work with the Marlins. Yeah, I'm friends with him. Nationals, that's it, Neil. Remember, they wanted to play him in Puerto Rico for a little bit, and I think somewhere else half the season. Yeah, the Expo. And baseball's talking about going back to Montreal. I don't think he can. Yeah, man, they got rid of the Hawk. Hey, they got rid of the Hawk in Montreal. He goes to Chicago. He hits 49 bombs. He becomes the MVP, and they're like, wait a minute. Oh, man, that's a great – see, when we have topics like this, it shows you the history of sports and why it matters to me. So, you know, to circle back to Brady here, Brady, the greatest team sport champion we've seen. Joe Carter, was he an Expo? I thought he was a Blue Jay. Chris goes, Billy Bean keeping the A's relevant. Yeah, because you know what he'll do, Chris? Guy gets on base, has a 380 on base percentage. He'll look at it like this. Well, I can get a 380 on base percentage with 2 dudes making $5 million instead of paying a guy $10 million who may have a bad year, but financially it won't kill the owner. Billy Bean works around the owner. So you want to get 50 home runs? He has to sign 5 guys. The Yankees sign 1. That's a disadvantage. But the A's are always in it, aren't they? Because you know why? They're financially responsible with their 27. It's a smart way to look at it. You invest all your money in Bryce Harper, he has a down year, and you're paying $35 million, and Billy Beane has two guys that hit 260 as an average, and they get him 34 home runs and 90 RBIs, but I only have to pay $20 million, and you're paying $34 million? That's a $14 million win for me. So he's right in a way. It's just not sexy winning. And that's why you don't have any people in the stands at the Coliseum. People want to see Bryce Harper standing there with the gold shoes on. I mean, he pays for the turnstile. 5 dudes in Oakland won't. And there lays the dilemma. You're never going to have a fan base in Oakland. That's why they want to move the team to Vegas or somewhere else, because they're never going to win in Oakland with 5 dudes. It's just not. I think MLB has its height when they had 2-3 teams with some of the biggest cities. I mean, dude, when I grew up, the Reds were the best, the big red machine. The Reds are the worst franchise in baseball today. The Reds had the greatest lineup I've ever seen. I can name you that lineup: Geronimo, Concepcion, Morgan, Bench, Perez, Griffey, Foster, Rose, Geronimo. I think Geronimo was 9th. Pitching staff was Don Gullett, Pat Zachary. That lineup was insane. Their pitching never matched it. Concepcion, I believe, hit 2nd. I think Rose led off. Concepcion was 2nd. Morgan 3rd. Foster 4th. Bench 5th. I think that's how it went with those first couple guys. Yankees got destroyed by them in 76. 77, the Yankees came back and beat them. I think the Dodgers, Cesar Geronimo was a heck of a player. He just was like the worst player on. And I think all of them almost made the All-Star game. Let me take a timeout, guys. You got to take a timeout. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades. No judgment zone for credit issues. The best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.
Weather forecasting is a team game.
We rely on each other every day, updating the models and passing along new critical information.
We have a team of 5 experienced meteorologists and a specialized weather producer, Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Sometimes what I see in the model, Cecily could see something different.
That's when we come together as a team to make our most accurate prediction.
And all of this backed by more than 100 AccuWeather scientists. It's a team game.
And we have the best team in town.
post-game show with Seth Joyner,
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn,
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney,
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
and Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
National Football Show. Appreciate you coming aboard. Let me ask you this question. Let me get the stats. Does Jalen Hurts have to put in a Nick Foles performance in the Super Bowl for them to win it? 28-43. 106-1 quarterback ranking. 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 receiving. This guy had 4 TDs in the game. Does Jalen have to put a – does he have – that's the benchmark. Does he have to play like Nick did in that Super Bowl? Does he have to put those numbers – dude, those numbers beat Brady. Mahomes is today's Brady. I don't think Jalen Hurts can play like he did in the NFC Championship game and you win that game. Okay? Because they're going to have a quarterback that can throw their – how many times have you seen Patrick Mahomes throw the Chiefs out of trouble? He can throw them out of trouble. No lead is safe with him. You could be up 21 points on him. He could come back and beat you. He has. He's beaten really good teams. How many times have you seen him down numerous points, 3 touchdowns, and win? Okay. Don't get easy on this guy. When you have him, you need to kill him. Don't let him hang around because he'll come back to get you. He has. (28-43). Super Bowl 52. Nick Foles had a 106.1 passer rating and 373 passing yards and accounted for 4 touchdowns. Hey, Redman, hasn't Merrill been great? He came on every week for me. Guy like that. He and I just became friends. I'm honored and, I'm humbled that he agreed to do that. And get this, he did it because he wanted to, and he felt that he enjoyed himself when he came on. A Philadelphia legend. And he goes, yeah, I read about the shit about you. I don't believe it. And I said, thank you, Merrill. He goes, Dan, if I believe the internet, I wouldn't go on 99% of the show. I said, well, we thank you, Merrill. You're such a good man to me. Admire him so much. Brady threw for 5. Hey, Chris, Brady did throw for 500 yards. What was Brady's stat line? Yeah, but you know what? I'll always remember Brady not catching the pass and Foles just looking like, hey, if I'm Tom Brady, of all the losses I ever had, even the Eli losses, man, the loss to Foles has to kill me. That has to kill you. You lost to Nick Foles, man. You know what, though? I try telling people, hey, a backup quarterback. Yeah, well, Foles was a Pro Bowl, too. The guy had like 26 touchdowns and 2 interceptions one year. He didn't suck. He just went to suck-ass places like Jacksonville and Chicago and Jeff Fisher. Look at that, for instance. I've always said this about Nick. Nick had poor decision except for one place, Philadelphia. You know what, man? I wouldn't mind Nick Foles back as the backup quarterback after they get rid of Gardner Minshew. I wouldn't mind Nick back here. What a great security blanket. Dude, bring Nick back. Jalen would be totally cool with that. You'd have two of your favorite quarterbacks in the history of the franchise. And Nick knows he's on the back nine. He ain't in here to try to win a job. He's just here trying to keep a job. I'd probably go after a guy who looks more like Jalen's skill set, kind of fits the team, but I'd be all right with Foles, man. See, real goes, Nick's wash sells. So here's my point, though. What kind of coaching do you think he got with Doug Marrone in Jacksonville? Good or bad? You think they knew what they were doing in Chicago? When's the last time they showed you they knew what they were doing with a quarterback in Chicago in the last 50 years? What quarterback has played well in the last 50 years in Chicago? McMahon? Kind of Rex Grossman? Kind of Jay Cutler? You think they know what they're doing in Indianapolis? These are money grabs by Nick. Took the big contract with Jacksonville. Stayed on that contract when he was in Chicago. Now he's in Indy. Bad decisions. He didn't go to good franchises. He went to shitty ones. Cost him. Rams too. Jeff Fisher. What quarterback? Oh, I forgot. Steve McNair. Do you know that Jeff Fisher hasn't had a winning season, including the USFL, in the last 10 years? And I'm supposed to sit there. I'm supposed to sit here and go, Jeff Fisher's a great coach. He knows what to do with quarterbacks. Come on, man. Jeff Fisher. The statue at the stadium is pretty dope, though, man. Hey, Tone, I don't know about you, man, but so let me get this right. Of all 32 NFL stadiums, the Philadelphia Eagles have a trophy of a backup quarterback out front of their building. Solid. I mean, so you have in the city of Philly a fictional character in Rocky and Nick Foles, a backup quarterback at the Link. Do you know why you have those trophies? Because they are a symbolic symbol of the type of people you are. Underdogs and counted out. It's not the name on the statue. It's the ideology of the statue. Okay? Okay? It's the ideologies. It's not the fact that Nick Foles is a backup. It said we couldn't win this thing with a backup. And if you're not talking to you guys, you don't get that. You just look at it as it's a backup. That's not what that trophy represents. Having to dig for gold. Okay? And Rocky, who cares he's not real? Who cares what he is, if he's real or not? Guy's a club fighter. The guy has to go and win, and he's offered a shot at the title. That's all right. I don't want it. The chance of a lifetime. You got to take your chance, Rock. Since I'm there, I might as well do my best. It's totally cool, man. I actually like both of them statues. Actually, I've seen both of them. The Foles one still catches me, though. I go, man, no Jaworski, no Randall. Shit, man, not even Sonny Jurgensen, man. Not even Gabriel. Not even McNabb. It's Foles. I get it. I totally do, man. All right. You guys are great. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button. Xander, thank you. Tone, man, you keep giving me just great information. Keep us on track. We really, really appreciate the great work you're doing. You're absolutely awesome to work with. We thank you. We thank all of you. The road to Glendale is getting shorter. We're kind of almost there. as this bad puppy continues, we really appreciate it. By the way, Philly 500 will be with us tomorrow, and we're going to talk with him and get his thoughts. I'm sure he's probably back to binge eating now. Okay, so I'm pretty sure he's back to binge eating. We'll get to that. We'll see you tomorrow, 3 to 6, and we'll catch you on the flip side.